Everybody needs a little kiss every now and then.
Oh, sure, but I do my drink.
Honey.
Do we have any water here? No? No, it's in the car.
You ready? So, good evening. It is May 18th, and it is 7:02 p.m. We are starting the Monomoy Regional School Committee. As superintendent, this is the one and only meeting each year that I start and open because we have our annual reorganization, and the committee will be voting for chair and vice chair, at which time they will reorganize about the table, and then we'll proceed on with the meeting from there. So I'll start by entertaining nominations for chair. So,
I
Stephen?
nominate Sharon Snow. I'd like to nominate someone.
Everybody can nominate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate. I nominate Brian Whittegren to
I would
be-
second that.
And
I'd like to nominate Brian and Karen for chair and vice chair.
Only one at a time.
We can do whatever we want. There's no rule on it. I asked MCAS. Ask.
Well, in that case, I'll nominate help me.
Point of order. Normally, it's, we vote on the chair, and then we vote on the vice chair.
I know we have normally done that.
So are you nominating her for chair? But she's not eligible for chair.
No. Can we nominate ourselves then? Karen nominated me.
I nominate Karen. Does that not count?
The-
Does that not count, my nomination?
Sure.
We,
I didn't hear it. Did you hear it?
you raise your hand, you get called on, and then you make a nomination.
so,
Okay, I'll repeat what I said. I said I nominate Sharon Stout.
okay, so we have Brian and Sharon. Is there a second?
For Sharon, I'll second that.
Others, and just for those that that are in the audience or potentially watching on television, in the regional agreement, there's an understanding that every year the chair alternates from Harwich to Chatham to Harwich. So since Stephen Duvall was the chair this past year, and Stephen is from Chatham, the chairs that are being nominated are from Harwich, and then ideally the vice chair that would be nominated would be someone from Chatham, and they alternate each year. There are some provisions in the original agreement by so many votes that they can opt to do something differently, but that's how the committee has operated.
So, do we need to do a ballot vote or a hand vote?
Can we have discussion?
We can. So,
So what I'd like to say is that a while back, I think it was the first year of Monomoy, I'm not exactly sure, I had nominated Nancy, and she wasn't a chair or vice chair or anything, but at that time I said, I think it would be great if we took turns doing this, and there was a lot of feeling that that might be a good idea. And so Karen and I and Amy are the only ones that have not been chair or vice chair. Everyone else has been one or both of those. So that would be my thinking. Plus, there's generally, although I think there's a lot of respect and wanting common good with all of our members, there's been sort of two sections in the school committee voting. And one has been Karen, Amy, and I. And so my attempt with this is to try to have one of us be chair or vice chair. to help bring more cohesive thoughts together, and to provide more unity with our school committee.
Karen?
I think Sharon has two good points. The first being that it would be good to rotate the chairmanship amongst the members, and Sharon has not had a chance. Also, I think that was another good point. I didn't think of that, having balance. Also, while I like you very much, Brian, I'm just a little concerned because when I had previously written emails to Stephen and to you with concerns about things before meetings, in most cases I did not receive any response. And I know that your schedule is very busy, and I guess I would have concerns that you would have the time to devote to the chairmanship.
Nancy?
While I agree with what Sharon was saying, because as she said, she nominated me as vice chair. I think it's very important, as I had that year in vice chair before I stepped into the chairmanship, to have that year to understand what the role actually is and the amount of time that it does take, because it does take more time than you would think. So I feel that it would be better off to have a continuation of somebody going from vice chair into chair after having that experience. I also feel that Brian would be an excellent chairman, and he has exhibited that the last time he was chair. He was very fair and very partial and understood the role of chair, where it's not necessarily to take charge of the meeting, it's to make sure that we stay in our realm as school committee members. And I feel that Brian has a good sense of what it takes to do that and how to maintain an efficient meeting.
Terry?
In my support for Brian over the years, I think he demonstrates a great deal of skill when it comes to understanding the fiscal ins and outs and history of a regional school system, most especially when he has to deal as chair with the selectmen from Chatham as well as the selectmen from Howard, as well as the town managers. So I see that as an apparent skill beyond being balanced. So that's something I think I see that would be a valuable strength, as opposed to just rotating all of us in and out.
I don't object, I don't disagree with some of these statements. However, in my case, I've been on the school committee for at least 5 years now. And so I'm willing to put in the time it takes, whatever it takes, and I'm willing to, and I think I have been here and seen for a long time what there is. If we just go back and forth, we're going to just not have new people on.
Karen?
I would just say that from what I've seen, Sharon has demonstrated that she's willing to put in a great deal of time, and she has had 5 years. I think that's probably enough to have good knowledge as the chair of what it entails. And anything else I think she could learn and be effective.
I will say that I had 7 years in, and I found the year as vice chair very educational and very helpful. So it's a whole different realm.
Other discussion? So I guess since we have two, you call them nominees, what we should do is a ballot vote, and before we get to the...
We've never done a secret ballot. I think
It's not a secret ballot.
It's not a secret ballot. We have to...
We have to put our name down so they know whether it's Chatham or Harwich, because Harwich is one vote, Chatham's a half a vote.
It's very simple math. And I just think we should, obviously the people in Chatham is a half vote, and Harwich is full though. But I just
Point
like
of
it.
order. It's not so that we can count votes. It's so that when we write our names down, we know a Chatham member from a Harwich member, not for numbers of votes, but in terms of you have to have one Chatham member and one Harwich member in the affirmative, in addition to the value of your vote per se.
I
So
understand
it's-
what you're saying, we've just never done it. and it's
We've
been
also
fun.
never had 2 nominees before.
I think from
Under Mass General law.
I guess from a practical standpoint, it allows you to simultaneously vote. Otherwise, we're voting on one person, yea or nay, and then voting on the next person, yea or nay. I think that's one of the reasons why the ballot's used. I also want to apologize. I'm grossly remiss. Didn't realize this was going to go on. And I want to welcome Donna Richardson, who is our newest school committee member, who is from Harwich, and congratulate Karen Ryder for being reelected from Chatham. So,
I just have a question. Are we going to know what each other's voting?
yes, so
okay.
at the end, I would need to read off the votes and
So
then.
let's say Stephen votes for Ryan. Okay, that's
Okay,
fine.
and then as it's been mentioned here, the way the regional agreement reads is the Harwich members have a full vote. The Chatham members have a half vote. So while there's 8 school committee members here at the table, there are 6 full votes, and one needs to receive the majority of the votes. And then Nancy brings up another very good point, that on votes like that, you also need to have one member from the other town, so the vote has to reflect both towns as well.
So just so I'm clear, you're going to hand out ballots and you're going to be requesting people vote for both chair and vice chair on the same ballot? Is that your?
I was, at least conceptually, the way I had looked at it, that we would write down your name and then who you're voting for, vote for the chair, and then we'll go through the process of accepting nominations for vice chair.
Oh, okay, I misunderstood.
And if we have to have a ballot, we'll have a ballot, and if
Okay,
not. Is that fine, acceptable to all?
that's consistent with the law.
So if you could write your name on the top and then indicate who you are voting for beneath that.
So in other words, it's up to Donna.
Is everyone?
Want us to pass them forward?
Sure. I feel like I'm on the show Survivor. I just don't have a coconut to pull the names out of here.
The Apprentice.
So the first one that I have is from Donna Richardson, who has Brian Whittegren as chair. The second one I have is Amy Middleton, who has Sharon Stout as chair. Third I have is from Karen Ryder, who has Sharon Stout as chair. The fourth, I have Nancy Scott, who has Brian Whittegren as chair. Then I have Terry Russell with Brian Whittegren as chair. And then I have Sharon Stout with Sharon Stout as chair.
Is there a math student in the room?
I have to make
I
sure
think you
that
left me out.
I have to make sure I've been writing in the right column here. All right. And then I have Brian Whittegren, who has Brian Whittegren as chair. And last I have Stephen Duvall, who has Brian Whittegren as chair, which comes up to 4 whole votes for Brian Whittegren and 2 whole votes for Sharon Stout, which would have Brian Whittegren as chair.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'd like to nominate Karen for vice chair.
So we have one nomination for Karen for vice chair,
Second. Second.
a second from Donna.
I'd like to nominate Nancy Scott for vice chair.
Second.
Any others? Just to be clear, Mr. Chairman, do you now take over?
In theory, I suppose that's true. Well, you can hand out the ballots. It's the next thing that's going to happen, so.
So as far as discussion
yeah.
goes, I just ditto what I said before.
Is there any other discussion that people want on this?
Oops, I did it backwards.
Oh, I would also say that as far as Karen goes, she has provided a ton of work that I can't really compare to what the chair or the vice chair does, but as far as researching things on our policy committee, she works extremely hard and does a ton of work getting ready for that and preparing the policies. It's just been dozens and dozens and dozens of hours. I think probably she looks into what other schools are doing and what our association, mass schools, school counselor, school committees, more than anyone else. And so I think that certainly people have to start somewhere, so I think she's very qualified to be vice chair.
Other discussion?
I would just echo some of those comments for the obvious reasons with Nancy. She served as chair. She served for several years on the committee. And I think those 2 positions, vice and chairman of the school committee, they're critical. And I'm sure Karen has a lot of skills, but arriving absolutely brand new last year, I think we all have enough to learn. So I would echo the fact that Nancy would make a valuable partner with Brian.
Karen?
I think after a year, I've put in a lot of time and I've learned a great deal. As vice chair, I would have the opportunity to learn more, and I really would like that opportunity.
Others? We'll have to move the podiums. Reach so far.
We need one more. I think
No,
you
there
have
was,
2.
there was 3 here.
Oh.
You need one more?
Nope.
No, we got it.
And there's miscellaneous ballot up there.
Thank you.
All right, so the first, vote for vice chair is by Amy Middleton, who has written down Karen Ryder. The second is Karen Ryder, who has voted for Karen Ryder. The third is Donna Richardson, who has voted for Karen Ryder. The fourth is Nancy Scott, who has voted for Nancy Scott. Next is Terry Russell, who has voted for Nancy Scott. Next we have Sharon Stout, who has voted for Karen Ryder. Then we have Brian Whittegren, who has voted for Nancy Scott. And then we have Stephen Duvall, who has voted for Nancy Scott, which would have us at a 3-3 split, if my math is correct. And I think we might have to briefly,
Are you sure? That doesn't sound like enough.
No, Sharon.
6 votes?
That's 6.
Too hard to reach.
so we may have to consult Barbara on how one moves from here.
Cocoa cheese.
You either take another vote or refer back to your policy manual. There's nothing in the policy manual that has a provision for a tie for a vice chair. So I would say you should get a recommendation from MESC or from the district attorney on how to proceed. And in the meantime, someone who is senior could act.
Mr. Chairman?
Well, I don't know what that means by whoever was senior would act. I'm not sure it's as essential to have an acting vice chair as perhaps it is to have an acting chair. Perhaps I think it would, I know that we have a long meeting tonight, but I think I'd suggest that it's worth calling for another vote. Now that people have voted and they've seen a tie, if somebody wants to determine that it's important enough to make a decision that they would consider changing their vote, which of course someone would have to do, I think it's worth, I would request that there be another vote, just in the hope that that would get resolved tonight.
Would people want to have further discussion, I think would be.
I'd recognize anybody for any comments or further discussion. Sharon?
I would say that Karen was just reelected this year, and she won by more votes than any other one that the Chatham voters voted for, on anyone that was running for anything. Between selectmen and school committee, I don't know if there's anything else. So, to me, that's a good acknowledgement.
Anybody else? So I would call for another ballot vote, unless there's any objection. Hearing none.
you.
Okay, so the second go-round here, first one I have is Brian Whittegren, who has voted for Nancy Scott. Next I have Donna Richards, who has voted for Karen Ryder. And I have Amy Middleton, who has voted for Karen Ryder. I have Karen Ryder, who has voted for Karen Ryder. Then I have Nancy Scott, who has voted for Nancy Scott. Then I have Sharon Stout, who has voted for Karen Ryder. Then I have Terry Russell, who has voted for Nancy Scott. And last, Stephen Duvall, who has voted for Nancy Scott. So we are at the same split that we were initially.
Does anybody want to comment on the next possible procedure of getting advice from higher authority? Does anybody have an objection to that? Hearing none, that's what we'll do, all right?
Brian, would it be possible for us to have 2 vice chair?
The regional agreement only calls for a chair and a vice chair.
And the Massachusetts statute only allows for 1 chair and 1 vice chair.
I not because of questioning this, but I'd love a copy of the regional agreement just because I don't know it.
Okay. So the next order of business is approval of minutes of April 27th. I entertain a motion to approve the minutes of April 27th.
Second.
Is there any discussion, requested changes, clarifications? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? It's a unanimous vote. I entertain a motion to approve the minutes of May 2nd, 2016.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion or clarifications requested? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining?
Well, there should be
Minutes are approved.
3 abstentions. Pardon? There should be 3 abstentions because they were not there.
The next order of business is public comment. Is there anybody that'd like to address the Monomoy Regional School Committee? Please come up and state your name.
Hello, my name is Diana Rose. I'm a graduate of Harwich High School. I'm a resident of Harwich and a special education teacher at Harwich Elementary School. And I'm also Adam Rose's sister. There's been a lot of conversation about Monomoy's desire to move in a different direction with the boys' basketball program. I am here tonight to share with you the direction that, in my opinion, Monomoy is moving away from. Adam has had a basketball in his hand for as long as I can remember. As a little boy, he went to practice with my dad as often as he could and almost never missed a game. He watched my dad coach, he played with the players, and was always practicing. Sometimes waking his older sister up dribbling a basketball in the house or practicing outside of my window at 8 o'clock in the morning. Most people say that Adam learned from the best, and he did. But Adam has developed into a person and a coach that my dad and my family are very proud of. Adam has played basketball in Harwich since elementary school. He played in middle school, junior high, high school, and college. He left a varsity coaching position to return as the boys' varsity basketball coach for the Harwich Rough Riders and then Monomoy Sharks. Last spring, Adam offered 3 free clinics for students from 4th through 7th grade. The clinics were attended by both boys and girls and run by Adam and the boys and girls varsity basketball teams. He holds open gym in the off-season to give his players and others in the community the opportunity to continue playing basketball. Adam also coaches AAU and on many occasions has provided players with a ride to practice, a game, or a tournament so that they did not miss out on the opportunity to participate. always dedicated to his players and the sport of basketball. I don't expect that what I've shared with you today will change the direction that Monomoy wants to go in with the basketball program, but at least this committee and the community have a snapshot into the direction that Monomoy is moving away from. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
My name is Kathy Masiello, and I'm a parent of a basketball player. I want to first thank you, Mr. Carpenter, and those committee members that have responded to my email. I want you to know that I fully understand that this committee does not have a role in hiring coaches, but I believe you do have a role in overseeing policies and deciding whether they are effective or not, or weighing in on issues when those issues rise to the appropriate level. I, for one, love a good policy. Everyone knows where they stand, and it leaves very little to the imagination. Unfortunately, as was explained to me, because of our transition in the blending of schools, an agreed-upon policy and coach evaluation tool was not decided on or utilized till this year. Because of that lapse, I believe there has been miscommunication and misunderstanding on all sides. I come from a medical community, and where I come from, if something isn't documented, I'm sorry, I have a cold, it didn't happen. I do hope when all is said and done, we remember that we are dealing with dedicated people that live and work in this community and have done so for years. What was also explained to me was that the department heads must ask themselves each year regarding positions, not just coaching positions, can we do better? And I would argue that the 632 names on the petition handed in last month to this meeting think we were doing just that. Back to the policy. Because Coach Rose was instructed he could reapply for this position, I quite like the policy provision that if the position is contested, then a screening committee consisting of one parent member of the school council, one student, and the athletic director will conduct the interviews. I look forward to fresh eyes and ears to evaluate and weigh in on who the next coach will be. Lastly, I'd like to discuss the posting of this position. I and others would like to see it posted with the urgency that the head football coach position garnered. That position was filled 2 months after it was vacated. The press release for that new hire appears in the paper on March 12, 2015. The basketball season ended mid-February. This coach was dismissed mid-April. We are 3 months out, and this position has yet to be posted, never mind filled. If we are going in a new direction that is in the best interest of the students, I just wonder why this position has not yet been posted. And please note that our neighbors, DY and Cape Cod Academy, both looking for head coaches for their boys' basketball teams, have been advertising for months. We are late to the game, and as it is, we are late to the game as it is, and it's to wait any longer assures limited prospects because coaches, you can imagine, there's just not that many coaches to go around. More importantly, if Coach Rose is unsuccessful in reapplying for the coaching position, we are limiting his prospects too. I'm sure we can agree that Coach Rose deserves that common courtesy. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Before we continue, I just want to advise people that we have an agenda tonight, and we have certain items on the agenda that we'll be speaking about. We do not have on our agenda a discussion about coaches, so the school committee will not be discussing that topic at a public meeting at this time. Okay.
Hi, my name's Mary Ann Mazulis, and I have a student here at Monomoy that plays basketball. And I'd like to say that I've gotten no answers from the AD or principal on this matter, and that parents were not welcome to a meeting. And it's just a shame how the school is going. It's not in a good direction. It's in a very bad direction. And you say in a new direction, well, what is the direction? Everybody doesn't want to comment because they say, oh, it's a personal matter. Oh, it's a new direction, player disconnect. Well, where's the player disconnect when all the players are there supporting Adam? That's all I want to say. It's just a shame. From the superintendent that had no comment when I came to speak with him on the matter, to the principal and to the AD. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The other items that we'll be discussing tonight, in the event there's anybody here who would like to speak during public comment about the other topics that we'll be discussing tonight, we will be discussing the school start times in next year, 2016-17. We'll be discussing the Monomoy Regional Middle School Improvement Plan, Monomoy Regional High School Summer School, the Elementary School Playground and Beautification Account, the Strategic Plan, the MREA Unit A Memorandum of Understanding, and the Superintendent's Contract. If there's anybody who's here to speak on these topics, they should speak during the public comment period, which is now. Is there anyone who wants to address the committee on these issues?
Hello, everybody, and thanks for listening to me tonight. I'd like to talk about the...
Could you tell us your name?
Oh, my name's Ben Doobie, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'd like to talk about the school start times for next year. First, I'd like to start off by saying that after the last time I spoke in front of you all, I conducted a survey in the high school where I received a respondent rate of higher than 50%. From that, I got 89% of students disagreed with Scott Carpenter's proposal. And out of the 11% that agreed with his proposal, they wanted to see a change to it, as the change that Scott Carpenter put in his own survey. And a problem that kids have come up to me and have talked about is that with the elementary schools starting earlier, that their younger kids aren't exactly the quietest in the morning. So if this whole proposition is to get kids to get more sleep, it's not going to happen when when it's chaotic in the morning and the kids are around all hyped up, ready to go to school. I have a twin sister, and she's 17 years old, and she's not quiet either. So if high school kids can't be quiet, you can't expect elementary schools kids to. I also want to cite what Mr. Carpenter had in his report from the University of Minnesota, and what it stated is that from the results that it came is that more research would be needed in order to concur with the hypothesis. So, in shorter terms, that the evidence is inconclusive with the findings. So, Monomoy, and even before Monomoy, Harwich and Chatham, has always been high-performing academic schools. This year we have the graduating classes going to some of the top schools in the country. Northeastern got accepted to Duke, NYU. So these students are doing this. And if we're having such a high rate of success, then why change what's already having a positive effect on students? In a study done by the University of Minnesota that had conclusive evidence, it said that kids are not, when subjected to change year in and year again, they do not respond in a positive manner. So imagine if this whole, for us to have a later start time is for us to be able to expand our horizons and become more successful. Imagine what our students could do if we were given a set schedule and keeping everything the way it is. And for students, in order for students like myself and Chris Mazzoulis and Jason Masiello, for us in order to get the good grades, honor roll, and etc., it means that we're going to have some late nights where we have to hit the books, we have to do homework and keep studying for hours upon hours. And that's just, in a way, part of being a successful student. So by us getting out later and by pushing this whole back by an hour, you're going to be causing students to stay up later, which in the end makes all this useless. And from the students that I've talked to, they said, well, NOSIT does this, and they haven't seemed to have any problems with it. But when the fact of the matter is that more kids from NOSIT are coming to Monomoy in order to get the education that we offer. And we have a higher success rate than them who have a later start time. And I honestly believe that there is not enough time for us to be able to make the schedule for next year and change with all the start times in the time allotted. If this was meant for the 2017-2018 school year, I could see this being a possibility. but I just don't see that it's not enough time and it's no need to rush something and have it not be as good as it could be. And then I'd like to say what Karen Ryder mentioned in her time with Cape Cod, the Cape Cod Times after she gave her victory speech. And that was that she echoed a lot of what I had to say, and she supported a lot of the views of not only myself, but the students. So for that, I'd like to thank her. I'd like to thank you all for listening to me tonight.
Did she echo you, or did you echo her? I don't know.
Yes.
Can I ask you a question while
Sure.
you're there? What'd you say your name was?
My name's Ben Newby, D-U-B.
Mr. Newby, you mentioned that you started off with an indication that you did a poll in which 89% of the people that responded were against the change.
Yes.
How many people responded to your poll?
Altogether, it was above more than 50% of the school body, so I believe it was around 289, close to 300.
Thank you. Steve?
Just a question. What time do you normally start homework?
From the times I get home from school and stuff like that, I'd say I start homework around 6, 7 o'clock.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Anybody else who wants to address school start time or any other issues on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move to the next. Oh, I'm sorry. Hi.
Hi, my name is Shauna Speakman, and I'm a sophomore here at Monomoy Regional High School. I'm so fancy right now because I just came from the NHS induction ceremony where I just got accepted.
We wondered why it's so
I didn't prepare a speech tonight because I didn't plan to speak, but I would like to put my input into this, and I'm not sure what Ben said, so I may be covering some topics.
It's okay.
I started a petition online a while ago, and it gained over 150 signatures. I don't know if you brought that up, but I wanted to bring that to your attention. That signature was launched the day before vacation, the most recent one we had, and it ended at the last meeting that you had. In over that short amount of time where we weren't really in school, it accumulated that much. I'd also like to bring up about the homework time. Ben starts his around 6 or 7. I start mine around 8 or 9 because I'm so busy after school. I'm here till 4 every day because my mom is an elementary school teacher at Chatham, and she can't get me until that time. So I have to stay here till 4 doing my extracurriculars, my clubs, all the things that I absolutely love to do. And if we changed the start time, I would be here so late every night, and I'd only get to start my homework at 9 or 10 at night, and I have to go to bed at 10 because I still have a bedtime as a sophomore. I don't really know what's up. But it's an issue if we change it. It's not going to affect the high school students in any manner that is going to be good. It's going to be horrible for us because we're going to stay up later to finish our homework, and we're going to have to wake up earlier to finish our homework. It's not going to work, and I don't want to sound horribly negative about this, but I am horribly negative about this. Since I didn't really prepare anything, that's all I have to really say. If you guys have any questions for me, feel free.
We wouldn't dare.
I do have a question. I asked Mr. Newby this. You said you had 150 signatures?
Over.
You set out something for people to sign, like a...
I did an online petition on iPetitions.com. It's titled Monomoy Students Against 855. You can see the signatures there. People were also allowed to leave comments, so students left comments. I did remove all the adults who signed it though, as I wanted it to only be students. So with all the adults that signed it, it was around 250.
And how do students know that the petition is available to be signed? Is it sent to all students?
The petition was not sent to all students, as I do not have that option to send it to them unless I typed out every single person's name. But what we did was put it on our class Twitter. My class of 2018 put it on our Twitter, and then 2017, 16, they retweeted it so people could see it, and then some parents put it on Facebook.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Nancy, hold on.
I just want to say that your petition, I really appreciated your petition, how you limited it to just students and how you removed the names of parents. You left comments on there, I think, from others than students.
Yes.
But I think that was a very well done petition to make it be literally just the students. So
Thank you so
did
much.
a nice job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sharon?
I just say that it's really wonderful to hear from high school students advocating and advocating for themselves. It's wonderful. It's a good reflection on your social studies classes.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I'm not dressed up like she is. It looks very nice. I'm coming from baseball. My name is Katie Clooney. I was up last time. I'm a first grade teacher at Howard Elementary School. And I appreciate all the high schoolers getting up and being able to speak on their behalf, but I guess I'm the voice for the small children at this region. And all I want to say is when they were going through school at that time, the elementary school, it was an earlier day for them. And I'm glad the success that they have had. And I think that definitely speaks volumes as to where they are right now. And I would love to give those small children at both elementary schools that same opportunity. They don't have the voice to come up here and say it. I've heard it in their expressions and how they do daily in the classroom. Some of their parents, it's just the meltdown factor. I kind of put it as a sponge. They are absorbing so much. It's awesome to see this time of year, how they've grown, everything they've done, but they can only take in so much, and they reach that saturation period where they're going through the motions, but they're really not absorbing anything else. So please, please, please look at this carefully. I hear all different sides of it. I get it's a difficult decision, but I think these children in the high school have done as well as they've done as well as they have done because when they were younger, the start was earlier for the kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the results of Ms. Speakman's survey and the comments that the students made are in your packets.
Is there anyone else that'd like to address the school committee during public comment? Last call. Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is student representatives. Do we have any student representatives?
Hello.
Hello.
We will be discussing the start time during our regular meeting for those who are curious. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Okay, so what's happening in the high school? So first off, last week the freshman class took a trip to Truro, a field trip, to the Need Center in Truro, which is about national energy education, and they had a great time. Next Wednesday night is the 3rd annual Leadership Olympics at the high school from 5:30 to 9:30 for kids in the school that are invited that are leaders. Okay, the seniors are almost done. We have 2 more days, 2 more school days, and then we have finals. So we have a lot of things coming up. So on Friday, we have a beach day that is sponsored by the Harwich Police Department. We're going to Main Street Beach as a class, and they're providing some fun and games and food for us, so that will be fun. We're also going on a boat cruise around Boston Harbor Memorial Day. We also have scholarship night, convocation, and then graduation. Also, as I'm sure you've noticed, we have the National Honor Society induction tonight. Also a senior thing, we have senior arts night next Thursday, Sam, okay, yeah. And there's an art show at 6 o'clock, and then at 7 o'clock at the Pilgrim Church, there's live performances by seniors only. Softball, baseball, golf, and the girls' tennis team are all tournament bound, or will be tournament bound. Also today during enrichment we had the multicultural fair where different clubs or people have tables where they represent their culture, so that was fun during enrichment. Also on Thursday night, tomorrow night, we have the spring concert, and it's at 7 o'clock. Yeah, it's 7:30, 7 o'clock. And if you can't make it for some reason, it's actually going to be live streamed by the TV club. So you can catch that online. Also yesterday, in the Cape Cod Times, the Rising Stars were released, and we had 3 Rising Stars, and as well as several nominations. And the cover girl was our own Katie Barr, which is pretty cool. Also, next Tuesday, we have the senior staff softball game after school. And I think that's all I have tonight. Thank you very much.
Any questions? Sharon?
Yes, who were the other 2?
Yeah, that was
Oh,
my
I'm sorry. Katie Barr, Jack Blute, and Miriam Assad.
Were they all from a certain grade or not?
All seniors. It's for seniors only, right? You can be nominated, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Tell you have a little excitement.
Oh my goodness.
I'd like everyone to recognize Lane too as a student that was mentioned as an honorable mention student.
What, is that our
Nick?
last time with Laney?
We have one more.
We have one more student representative?
No, one more meeting
Oh, okay.
before graduation.
Right. We'll be meeting next Wednesday. Next item on the agenda is recognitions.
Before we go to
Carpenter?
that,
Sharon?
Laney brought up one thing, and that is, well, actually, Amanda Speakman also brought it up, the,
National Honor Society.
what was it, the Scott, who was
National Honor
recognized?
Society.
National Honor Society. And so, this is the second time I'm aware that that's been held on the same night as school committee. Would there be, last time I asked if there was a way that it could be scheduled so that at the end of that, they could come in and at least we could recognize, maybe their whole ceremony couldn't be held on camera, but at the very end, maybe they could be introduced to us or something?
Steve?
You'll remember that we're not supposed to be meeting tonight, we were supposed to meet last Wednesday. It was scheduled off of our
Okay.
regular
Was it
meeting.
scheduled for us?
No, we were scheduled for
Okay.
last week and moved,
Okay,
so they were scheduled to be
okay.
in and off.
I guess what I'm asking is, could we try to see if they couldn't be scheduled on the same night, just so they could come and we could put it on our thing here? I'd love to meet these people.
If I could, Miss Carrie Flynn and I don't know Miss Tanya yesterday, but those are the 2 teachers that are in charge
Okay.
of the National Honor Society.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I think the challenge was just probably they're starting, I think they started at the exact same time that we were starting.
Recognitions.
So Lainey went and took my win, so I'll pass this around, but congratulations, Katie, Miriam, and Jack. They have some really nice write-ups in there about each of them. The other thing that I just want to recognize is we have done some outreach to local businesses to ask them to help us with the concession stand. And we have a fundraiser coming up on Friday afternoon, going into the evening, for the concession stand here at the field at Monomoy Regional High School. And I would like to thank, I guess it's J.W. Dubus Excavating in Chatham for their donation of $500 towards the project, and there are a number of other local businesses that are coming forward to donate things for the auction that we intend to have Friday evening, and we'll be acknowledging them at our next committee meeting.
That's it. Okay.
Brian, I just would
Amy.
like to thank the committee for making that accommodation last week so that we could go and see Dr. Hill.
Hill,
Sharon?
at any point, can we talk about that, Dr. Hill?
Sure.
Well, it was, I really would like to commend Sheila House, and I have no idea who else might have worked on getting that to happen. But there were some seats still vacant. I was disappointed at that, but there were a lot of people at that, in the auditorium for the evening. And he's from Harvard, Beth Israel, and also a doctor for many of the NFL players. And he talked about problems with alcohol, marijuana, and opiates. And I always think I'm not going to learn anything new, but I actually did learn a little bit new on the things he had to say about marijuana. And it just was wonderful that we had that kind of level of expert to come down here. What was it filmed, do you know?
It was.
And is that going to be on the TV channel?
It was.
It was.
Okay, I haven't seen it.
It's
On channel 18 or just ours?
The educational channel.
It's on the website, I'm told, as well.
Okay. That, you know, the more we can get that out, it was just wonderful.
Thank you. Reports and discussions. First item is school start times.
Actually, could we have a request to bump up the summer school presentation so our presenter can not be here late into the evening.
Anyone object? Hearing none.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. It's a pleasure to be here. I want to echo what Ms. Stout said. It's so refreshing to see our students involved in this process, and just by simply seeing them here for a few moments, you can recognize the depth of the ability and passion our students have. So I'm here to speak to you tonight about summer school and online learning at the high school. And what I'd like to do is obviously not read every slide for you, but kind of just highlight this process. And this was kind of a project that started back in baseball spring training, believe it or not, so there's been a lot of preparation that's gone into this, a lot of research. So first I'd like to just discuss the rationale that we need a void filled here. Since the inception of Monomoy, we've continued to increase graduation requirements, and over time, when we kind of, I guess, went from being 2 high schools to 1, the kind of summer component fell apart a little bit. And what we were using was an online program for credit recovery, where students would not have support and also not real integrity as far as who's monitoring what the student is doing. So we looked at those 2 things, and also the recognition that those students who are taking recovery courses are not our strongest students to begin with. So to put them on an online program kind of on an island was not very effective. So moving forward, we're looking to create more opportunities for students to reach our graduation requirements, which, if you look across the state, are among the highest out there, which we're all very proud of. However, in order to address that, we do need to provide students with additional learning opportunities. So you can read through the bullets there. I will make this available to all of you. I'll talk to Mr. Carpenter about how we'll do that. The other things that you'll hear me talking about are online learning, which kind of will be the platform for our summer school, but will also spill into the regular school year. We've decided to move forward with an academic center to support our struggling learners. The program I'll be talking about tonight will help provide some remediation in that setting. And it will also allow students to, I would call them higher level students, to explore some enrichment opportunities that they can't get within a smaller high school, similar to a virtual high school, which we may be moving a little bit away from. That's kind of yet to be determined. So that's sort of the rationale for why I'm here. So just to give you a little background, we did quite a bit of research on different providers. Mr. Carpenter was very, I guess, committed to the what I call the blended learning model, which is becoming more and more popular around the state, especially in the higher level high schools. And as you would imagine, the blended learning model for summer school would be that there is a considerable amount of work done within the classroom, but even a little bit more expected outside of the classroom. So the idea is to have, I'll get into a little bit more detail, but assistance for the students when they're working on their summer classes, but also at-home responsibilities. So that's just an example of a few of the different companies that we looked at. The one that we'll be implementing this year is the Fueled Ed program, which when compared with others and receiving some feedback from a school who uses it, Duxbury High School thinks very highly of that program. That would be the one that we're going to use this year and determine if that's the proper platform we want to move forward. So also, one of the other things we looked at was what do typical models of summer school look like across the state, specifically in our area, but also specifically within some of the top achieving high schools in the state. So you see some fairly diverse names of schools there. So that's what we looked at in trying to come up with a program that will exceed the learning opportunities offered at these other high schools, which are considered to be strong high schools, many of them. So this kind of, when you're able to go back and look at some of the materials, you'll see that what I will be presenting is more robust for our students than any program, excuse me, the Italian, my friends move a lot. Any student that will be in our program actually will be receiving more learning hours, so we feel that it's substantial as compared to other school districts. So speaking of surveys, my survey was a little smaller. What we wanted to look at, and I thank Scott for this advice, was, well, this is great. We're talking about what we think is best for summer school, but have we talked to our students? Have we talked to our teachers? Have we talked to parents or other stakeholders? So I conducted a kind of a random survey, which included around 50 people. It was exactly 50 people. Some teachers, mostly students, a few parents, and an administrator as well. So this is just kind of a snapshot of what the survey looked like. So we're basically looking for what would work best within our community, knowing that students work a lot in the summer, noting that it's often difficult to get the best teachers at summer school, which is so crucial to making it successful. So the results were resounding. 85% participants favored the blended learning model, which would mean half of the work done here and about half of the work done at home. Speaking of shorter calendar and longer days, over 90% of participants favored kind of a shorter school window with more time at each school day spent. And around 95% agreed with students having the ability to take up to 2 classes during summer as a method for recovery. Taking a look at cost, the majority felt that $250 was an appropriate summer school fee for our students. Almost 100% agreement that if we have seats available, we would charge out-of-district students $100 more than we would charge our own. So this is a very basic kind of outlay of what things would look like. We would offer one session for STEM credit recovery with Algebra 1, Geometry, and Biology, and that would run from July 12th to the 28th. So you will notice a lot of summer schools start either before the 4th of July or right after. I had the experience of running the Harwich Chatham summer program for many years, which did start early. My experience was it's harder to connect with students and fill seats. And I also think it's a nice thing to give everybody involved a little break before we get back to the nitty-gritty. You'll notice that the second session runs from August 2nd to August 18th. This would be the humanities, English, and history. So if you look kind of at the blue tab there, you'll notice the schedule would be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 8 to 11 a.m. That would include 27 class hours with support, using the online platform as the primary educator. There will be a teacher there to support. The blended learning, 27 class hours, 33 independent hours, means there is a considerable amount of work to be done at home by our students. This will be, assuming we move forward, one of the most important principles to address with our students, is staying on top of this. And you can see the suggested tuition there as well. Just to give you an idea of some of the topics that will be covered, we wanted to make sure that our curriculum through the use of Fueled Ed would be matching the curriculum we use here at the high school. So I've had many department chairs take a look at what the course offerings are, and we feel very confident moving forward that these will serve our students through credit recovery in summer school, but also we will have some credit recovery seats available during the school year. And again, with the idea that we have very stringent grad requirements compared to other high schools, and we want to make sure that all of our students graduate from Monomoy Region. Just an example of the humanity course descriptions. So within each unit, there are about 10 mini units or mini lessons that students will complete. I think I missed one. History. So we set up to kind of look at what our school needed when we talk about online learning, and this is something that's many schools are moving in the direction of this, especially to address credit recovery and remediation, as I mentioned before. So working with my department in the guidance office, this is kind of what we put out there as what we believe necessary to meet the needs of our students. So you see that the nice thing about these seats is they're reusable. So we have, it's actually going to be 30 seats for each summer session. So that would we'd be able to serve up to 60 students in our summer school. The enrichment courses, 5 of those seats would be available, and we can purchase more depending on need. And again, the 15 seats devoted for 1 period a day to the student support lab. So these are some of the ideas we have about how we're going to implement the program. This is actually the, well, how would I say this? This is the, what they're asking us today. So basically what I'm going to demonstrate to you is that it looks expensive on paper. However, we're going to be saving significant money in other areas, not to mention that summer school can be self-supportive through tuition as well. So what do we get out of this deal? We'll be able to serve 60 students in need for our credit recovery in the summer. It could serve as the curriculum backbone for the 8th and 9th grade academic lab for struggling learners. We would have 10 seats per semester regular year for credit recovery, 10 seats for enrichment opportunities for our top level students, and 10 flexible seats which could be used to address any of the above. And the nice thing with working with this company is if you need to add a little bit more on, you can add a little bit more on. So we're kind of using it for the first year. We have to see where the grades will be. A little bit about the finances behind this. So summer's proceeds on tuition will serve as the startup funds. So I'm expecting that we'll be able to fill all 60 summer seats, giving us a working number of 15,000. The cost of the program, the online platform, which contains all of the curriculum, very nice lessons that are user-friendly with a lot of good features, importing, for example, I looked at the history class, importing a variety of historical figures, doing speeches and this kind of thing. So it's really solid, is I guess what I would say. We also look at staffing. We would need 4 teachers to run the program in the summer. We came up with looking at what other summer school programs were paying people. This was on par with that, as it is not part of the union. I made sure to establish that early. Also, position of the directorship. That leaves a gap, as you can see. However, that's a minor expense given all that this is going to provide for us. And the other thing, if you look at the very last line there, we used virtual high school last year at $5,600. We likely are not renewing that. So if you take that into account versus the gap, we're actually going to make out ahead. One of the other topics of discussion over the first few years of high school here in this building is the need to make sure our students are prepared entering the high school traditional 9 through 12. And it is a big change for our students that are in grade 7, and then especially those who transition to grade 8 here at the high school. So what we have seen each year is there's a consistent group of students who have failed 2, if not more, courses, who likely are promoted to the next grade level. We feel those students might not be prepared to do their very best. So what we're considering is kind of a 3-week boot camp. And in that boot camp, what we would try to do is provide those students with the upcoming curriculum for the year ahead. To try to, it's almost like a jumpstart mentality. Let them feel very comfortable with the first few months of school, and then hopefully that will continue to build success. This one would not be used through the blended learning model. This would be more of what I call a boot camp, so that it would be a short period of time. It would be 3 weeks, 3 days a week for 3 hours. We are going to, if you look at the very last bullet, the biggest concern we had is that many of these students, through research, are low-income students. So they're on free or reduced lunch, and what that leads us to believe is that paying for anything during the summer for that particular population is difficult. And in order to encourage them to attend, we want to look at being able to cover that tuition for them. So that's a work in progress as well. It's been received very well by parents who I've spoken with and teachers that teach in both 8th grade and 9th grade. Wrapping up here, the required staffing to run the program, we would need a biology teacher, a mathematics teacher, a history teacher, and an English teacher. They would work 3 days a week for 3 hours a day for 3 weeks. It's kind of a 3 by 3 model, and you would see the stipend there available to them. And the summer boot camp, as we call it, for grades 7.5 and 8.5, we would need 1 STEM teacher and 1 humanities teacher to pull that off. The director would be the only one who works throughout the full duration of both sessions, as well as the research for the program and the planning of the program and execution of the program. That kind of would be that person's role. And that's the end of the presentation. Do we have any questions about, thank you. Mr. Russell.
Good job, John. I thought it was very clear. I was much impressed with that transition boot camp, 7th grade to 8th, past experience. We send kids off with a self-fulfilling failure rate, so by the second quarter of their 8th grade year, they're drowning. So if this would be new to us, it would be a terrific experience to watch how that happens. I'm sure the middle school principal and his staff would be able to identify and get parents involved in that. But a nice opportunity for those kids to kind of grab hold of a lifeline.
Agreed. Sharon?
So I really appreciate the detail that you went into on this. I'm a little confused on one aspect. So this is for kids who have been failing subjects.
Yes, so credit recovery would be, and this is a good point too. Credit recovery is for a student who fails a course. In order to be eligible to take the summer program, the student has to have at least a 50% or gets in on appeal. The reason we've always kind of had that policy, and this goes back many, many years, is we don't really want to put a student in a summer program for recovery if they haven't mastered the majority or at least half of the material, because it would almost be like promoting them to the next level without sufficient preparation.
Would it be possible for a student, if they were, instead of just not doing their work, that they were having some issue, for them to maybe repeat something?
Yes, our students do repeat classes often. I think the transition that we're seeing, over the last 7 years is the increase, adding an additional mathematic requirement, adding an additional 2-year world language requirement, adding PE and wellness into the mix, has kind of caused the lack of an option for doubling up because students have to take other required courses.
On the wellness, I think we've been going the opposite way, instead of adding them. Well, maybe we've added the requirements, but
We've actually added a lot of opportunities for students to earn their wellness credit. It's much, they have more opportunities this year than they did last year.
The other thing is, the teachers that are going to be hired will be certified.
Oh, absolutely. Great
Teachers.
question. We always start internally first. I'd love everyone staffed in our summer school to be a high school or middle school teacher. And they are all credentialed. I will not support through the interview process anyone that is not a credentialed teacher.
Mr. Duvall?
Hi. How does the regular year recovery program work? I mean, they're already taking a full load.
Right, good
How does that
question.
work?
So the credit recovery, the way that it's structured is students can move through a course in a semester as opposed to a full school year. So those certain seats, if I were, let's give, for an example, I could identify a student who fell short on a year, let's say, of science, just to pick one. And the student schedule was chock full, but there's an elective maybe that could be removed from that schedule. Student would be placed in the credit recovery period, able to work through that course in a semester as opposed to a whole school year or over the summer. And a lot of times we use this almost exclusively for 12th grade students. That's when we see most students scurrying for credit recovery, if you follow me, now that graduation is kind of at the end of the tunnel. So we want to try to get away from that and offer that at earlier grades. So students coming into their senior years have a much stronger percentage for success.
Anybody else? Amy?
Good presentation.
Thank you.
Am I understanding that the reduced tuition for free and reduced eligible students is only available for 7th through 8th grade students?
That's a great question. I think, having researched other programs across the state, they do provide that for summer school as well. Part of what we're trying to do in our first year of summer school is launch it.
Yep.
Financially for one.
Right.
But I mean, I guess, could you just repeat the original piece of the question?
Yes, my question was, when you showed that chart that showed the different schools,
Right.
I saw that there were some schools that maybe didn't give it for free, but it
Yes.
was like $100.
So the way that this is going to work out this year
Yeah.
is the director, likely.
Yeah.
I will meet with each family and let them know that there will be a disclaimer that should you need financial assistance, please contact the office. And you know, there are a number of things I can try to tap into that I've used before
Okay.
to help students.
More of a case by case.
Yes. Moving forward, however, in the future, there would be a much more solid kind of tiered payment system
Okay.
based on, you know, whether the student's is free or reduced lunch or is not free or reduced lunch. That's kind of the cutoff we use for a lot of our fee waivers for SAT, for AP. That's kind of the standard cutoff, is that free or reduced threshold.
Got it. Thank you.
Karen?
Thank you, that was a good presentation.
Thank you.
I'm just curious why you would not be offering that fee structure for free and reduced lunch students the first year.
I hear your question. I think that might be something that we should look more into. The idea is that we wanted this to be self-sufficient to start. So I certainly like the idea, knowing that, like we said, a lot of that population that will be going to summer school is the same population that will be going to 7.5, 8.5. So I can speak.
Just interject.
Sure.
Could you take the podium, please?
Just give you a life for Hi, Bill Burkett, principal. John, great job.
Thanks.
I know John's put in hundreds of hours on this with the, you know, the whole goal. As we started here, we were seeing so many of our kids going down to schools to take summer school, or not. And we found out the ones that weren't because it was traveling too far or couldn't get the money, because typically when you're a visiting student, you pay more, similar to our model. So we put this in, and the whole goal here is to, all research shows that transition year is the biggest year for kids. You got to get them when they're coming into your building, and you got to find supports right away. So you're seeing, you saw the program of studies with our foundations courses and a lot of courses. You're seeing this as another bridge to support those kids with our 7.5 and 8.5, excuse me, measures to identify those kids. We wanted to make that free because we want to have those conversations with the parents right away and make it enticing that, you know, you can't say no, basic opportunity where your child's feeling these courses. We've given them this free opportunity. But the answer to your question, Ms. Ryder, is that we will turn no one away. So we'll find the funds, and it'll be as needed if it has to be. You know, if it has to be that all kids in free and reduced lunch the first year go for free, then they will. So we're not going to turn anybody away that needs to go.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Sharon?
Could we put this on the agenda to hear more of an update, maybe in January or something? Because this looks really intriguing. It's wonderful, but I'd love to hear.
Oh, an update next year as to how the summer program went. I would like that opportunity because as Scott and I were discussing, there are many online platforms out there. We found one that we think works for us, but I think we need to walk a few miles to determine that. But I definitely would like to come back and let you know how it's going.
Thank you.
It's Karen.
Yes, I would like that as well. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you. Mr. Carpenter, is there anything else you'd like to change in your agenda?
I think that's
Order.
it. I just wanted to be sensitive to Mr. Bennett.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter.
The next item on the agenda is the school start times. Is there anybody that has any thoughts or comments? Do you have a report about the?
I can share some things, and I think Jim's just flipping over the from one computer to the other computer. One of the things that we did this week is put out a survey and just ask people to respond. I think as of this meeting, we had 802 people have responded. I think 161 students. There's 133 staff members, and then 53 others that are staff members and parents, so they kind of show up in two different categories. And then we've had 455 parents, of which there's an additional 53 that are staff members / parents. So I think what Ben brought up about the students is very consistent with what we saw or what we've seen so far in this, and that there's 76% of the students if we just kind of go to the last question in the survey, which asks about the current start times, and 76% of students said, hey, we like the current start times, we'd like to keep this current start times. Then we, in the survey, we talk about two options. There's a flipped model, which is the presentation that I made, which is just taking our current start times at the elementary school and the middle school and high school and flipping the two. And then there's one that I refer to as a compromise model, which a number of individuals in the email responses that we have gotten have suggested, hey, could we flip but slide the times forward so that the high school day isn't ending so late? And as some people have commented, the concern then is if we slide forward, what does that mean to, or what time are kids getting on the buses? In fact, I have shared in your packets all of the emails that people have sent me so far, and I've responded back to every single one of them except Ms. Jordan. Hers came in just under the wire, but I haven't responded to Joyce yet. And then I got an email as I was getting ready for the meeting, and the parent I think really does a nice job. I'll send this one to the committee as well. Talking about, hey, I'm concerned if we start any school before 8, what does it mean at the bus stop? And it's a legitimate concern that I think many people have about that sort of compromise shift. So this here is what that last graph looks like for the students. If I just quickly go up and flip it over to the parent filter. And go full screen on that. See it real clear. I think I can do this. So if we go with the parents and how the parents have responded, so you can see a little over roughly 45% we can get to the actual percentages. So it's 45% of the parents were, for keeping the current schedule. There's 33% of the parents were saying, hey, the flipped makes sense for us and our family. And then 18% of the parents said that they would opt, that they would opt for that compromise. And I think the thing to point out is that it was clear with the parents that that compromise one was the one that they kind of disliked more. And again, I think a lot of it was, what does it mean about what time some kids are getting on buses. The staff is the most interesting one. The staff one, I would gladly have somebody go and interpret this. So with the staff, what we'll do is we'll actually look at all three questions because it's kind of interesting. So if we say, take the current start times for our staff, it breaks out that slightly more of them prefer the current start times than dislike the current start times, but it's a 45-41 split. So then we go to the flipped model, and slightly more of our staff prefer the flipped model than dislike the flipped model. A split from about 48 to 42%. And then if we go down to the graph on the compromise model, we have it's 46 prefer it a little bit more than dislike, so it's a 46 to 40% split. And then if we go to the last question and say, okay, which one do you prefer? It's almost a one-third split. So there you have it. And I will fully acknowledge going into this, this was not going to be something that there was going to be 90% feeling this way and 10% that way. And even with the parents, they're, from that parent graph, there are more parents, slightly more, ever so slightly, that would be in favor of some sort of change. But it's a 52, 48. It's close. So I just wanted, the survey is still open. I will keep it open going into our next meeting. But I think the sample size that we got is pretty accurate. I think it's dead on what Ben said for the students, and I think it also does a nice job of mirroring a lot of the email feedback. So in your packets is everybody that's emailed to date, and you have that same sort of, some are very strong this way, some strong, some strong that way, and all of them very good, accurate reasons. Just a couple of little informational things. Some people have asked for clarity about buses and how buses operate in the district. The district has 13 school buses that make our runs. And the way those buses operate is they go out and 7 of them span out across Chatham and Harwich and pick up middle schoolers. And 6 of them span out across Chatham and Harwich in the morning and pick up high schoolers first. So we have the middle school and high school runs. They are on the same buses. So before we regionalized, in both of our towns, middle schoolers and high schoolers were on the same buses, heading essentially to the same area. But now they're on different buses, heading, one's ending up in Chatham, 7 of them are ending up in Chatham at the middle school, 6 of them are ending up here. After the students get off those buses, the buses fan out and do the elementary runs. 10 of those buses will end up at Harwich Elementary School. 3 of those end up at Chatham Elementary School. And a couple of parents asked, why can't we just have more buses, solve it? And you could add more buses, but you'd have to add essentially 13 more buses, and it's not an inexpensive thing. At the moment, we get a reimbursement for those buses, so that after the state compensates us for the buses, they're a little over $50,000 a bus to run for the year. Keep in mind, you have the bus, the gas, you're paying the driver, so 13 times 50,000 would add up. That's presuming that the state would go and give us reimbursement for having dedicated buses to each school. So it's doubtful that that's a possibility. But busing is a issue that we have to look at, which kind of gets to the concern about the compromise time, or for that matter, just what's it like at the bus stop. So in my free time, I decided I was going to take our schedule and overlap our schedule with sunrise sunset calendar for the year, to just look at currently how many days do we have, in this case, middle school and high school students standing out there for a bus before sunrise. And currently in our calendar, we have 5 days next year that, if we keep our current schedule, that middle school students and high school students will be standing out before sunrise. Some of them. These will be the first kids getting on the bus. Emphasizing again, just because it's not quite sunrise doesn't mean it's dark. So this is when the sun reaches over the horizon. It's likely light out there. It's just not sun up yet. And on the other side of this, our elementary students are getting off the bus in the dark with the current start time. So we actually have 27 days of next school year, if we don't change anything, that our elementary students will be getting off the bus in the dark. So if we were to look at a flipped model, what would that do? That flip model would just have, instead, it would be elementary students would be standing out for 5 days before the sun rose. And that's, again, the first students picked up. The sun will rise by the time they get to the school, and there'll be 27 days that the sun will have gone down before. But then if we go to the extreme on the compromise model, and I also played with, what if we were somewhere in the middle of that, the compromise and what our current is. But if we go to the extreme of the compromise model, it would actually have 69 days out of 180-day school year that the sun will not have risen before some kids are starting to get on the bus. On the other end, everybody will get off the bus before the sun ever sets. So it's you have that, and depending on if you were to look at a compromise that isn't a half an hour shift but is a 15-minute shift, it goes and roughly cuts that number of days that students are standing out before the sun rises in half. But then it goes back to adding 24 days on the other side, where students are, in this case, middle school and high school students, would be getting off the bus in the dark. So as it is now, we have students that, for a brief period of time, right before daylight savings time, do get on buses before the sun rises. And we have that period of time in the winter where our elementary students, for about a month, are getting off the bus before the sun, or after the sun has set. It's my quick little tidbits of start times, sunrise, sunset.
Mr. Russell.
Just kind of moving my opinion towards some thoughts recognizing it is complex, recognizing the surveys, and I appreciate Scott getting that out. I was impressed with it, and it's getting hundreds of more folks to make some sort of commitment to say, oh, this feels better. On the other hand, my feeling is that bar seems to be right down the half or a third, and whether or not that'll change, I don't know. Personally, last week when this came up, and we've been discussing it for a couple of weeks, I favored the late start for the high schools, and I favored the elementary early start for reasons we've already talked about, even though there are more complications maybe at the adult level, but also if you have moms and dads with elementary kids. That being said, a lot of this is buy-in, and we've got 200 or 300 or 400 boys and girls, seniors of which probably won't be touched by it, but are giving their due consideration. Mothers and dads coming before us. If an idea is really going to move, people are going to make it move. The folks involved, staff, kids, and parents, they're the ones that will make it work. Either because they have to, or they thought it was a good idea to begin with, or they're open to it. To get buy-in, I think you have to sell the idea, and as I think back a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, we weren't really targeted to talk about start times. I know our strategic plan that we've created 7 or 8 months ago has about 40 goals. The superintendent each year has 3, 4, 5, 6 goals. The school committee has 10, 15, 20 goals, none of which, they're all indirectly impacted with start time. Not that that's totally foreign to them, but none of those goals targeted start time. My thought, and I know we're going to get some type of decision or opinion maybe another week, so it's not really a finalized deal in my head today. I favor, as I've said, the idea, but I like it to be a group idea. So the thought strikes me, with probably no movement, that what if compromise is such a neutered experience, and even that's not getting myself, I feel like even 8:30 moving would be better than nothing. However, what if we stalled it, put it off for a year, in the summer, created through the superintendent a subcommittee made up of sophomores and juniors, mothers and dads, staff, elementary, middle, and high school, administration, charged them with the task between September and February, let's say, to review the research. Maybe some of that group to visit 2 or 3 model Commonwealth schools that are presently at 8:30 or 9 o'clock. Spend the day there with some substitutes here, come back with this input, formulate a very straightforward 1-page report to the superintendent and school committee, and let us, during that time, know that we've spent another year looking into this, so that we could then reconvene in to whom would we report we're way behind to. And with that, maybe those, the superintendent as well as the school committee, might be in a better position to say, this is going nowhere, it's frozen, but someone's going to make the best vote, and I vote A or B. Or, looks like after this 10 months, we're looking at 60% of the people favor keeping it where it is, or trying a new model at 5 minutes at 9 or 8 o'clock for the elementary. So I've moved to that feeling only because if you're going to make a major change that's going to impact all the kids and a lot of the moms and dads, if you're ultimately going to maybe have to do it, it's not going to satisfy everybody. But at least everyone might say, hey, we've had 12 months to chew on this, and I've got myself a babysitter, now I see how this might work. So that's my 2 Hershey Kisses worth of thought.
Karen.
I just wanted to say thank you to Terry for seconding what I said the last meeting, which is that it's too soon to make a decision for this September, and I think it should be for next year, the next school year. It seems from what we're hearing in general that I think we could, I'm not going to speak for anyone else. It seems to me clear that an earlier start time would benefit the elementary school, but changing times at the other 2 schools, it seems like would not be such a good idea. Ideally, it seems to me that having the 3 schools start at the same time or close to the same time is probably the best solution for each of the schools involved. I know that we have an issue with that because of the buses. I think that we shouldn't be, and I'm echoing what Joy has said, I think we should not be making decisions based on our busing situation. I think it would make sense to take the time to figure out if there's a way that we can do that and not have a prohibitive cost of busing. You know, if it's not a possibility to say share buses with another school so that all the schools could start at the same time or almost the same time, let's find a different way to do it.
Sharon?
Yes, I agree with what Karen's saying, because and I also agree with what Terry's saying about looking at it more thoroughly. The busing seems to be the problem, because it seems fairly clear to me that the middle and high school are mainly saying they don't want to move their time, and the elementary schools, at least the teachers and some parents, are saying they really want an earlier time. And so I realize that the setup we have now is a traditional setup of that we have these 13 buses, and there is not a way for those 13 buses to do these routes in a closer proximity than 50 minutes. So in the way we're doing it, it's not like the bus company can do it better with that model, but either what Karen's saying by maybe other schools wanting to share buses so they can have all these at one time and we can have all these at another time, or even if it was possible to use First Student and a current bus company, or it doesn't matter companies, but to hire buses for Tier 1 and another one for Tier 2. I just don't think we've looked into it. I expect there would be some cost, but I don't know how much.
Yes, Amy?
I am most in favor of the compromise with 3 in 3 different schools and needs. It's all I do is compromise. I will say though, just two personal notes. One is, in the afternoons, I have a Cub Scout group of 7 boys on Mondays who I pick up. Also right now, I'm doing 2 art clubs on Wednesdays and Thursday mornings at the elementary school with 16 kids in each of those art clubs.
Which the kids love, by the way.
Thank you. They are ready to roll first thing in the morning. It is quiet, it is manageable, it is phenomenal. The afternoon group, they're bananas. They're 7, and I barely can keep it together with the 7. It's effortless with the 16. And I really feel strongly that we're losing valuable learning time with those little ones. I think it's crucial. And I have a first grader who is a struggling learner, particularly with reading. In addition to the homework of spelling words and reading 20 minutes each night, which is laborious for him, I also have to read to him. He has to read to me in his Journeys book, and he has to do a certain number of minutes of Lexia each day. Ms. Millen can tell you that he is late probably 3 or 4 days a week. And the reason why he is late in the morning is because I cannot do it with him in the afternoon. He is toast. His brain is no longer functioning. It is no longer working. The only time I can do it is after I take Jan and Christian to their respective schools and work with him in that precious little time in the morning. That's my 2 cents.
Amy, I don't want to put you on the spot, and we've already agreed that we're not going to decide this today, and we're going to give it another meeting to decide this and obtain more information. So you certainly have the right to not answer this question, but given what you've heard tonight, and given what you've just said, what is your current feeling on putting it off for a year? In light of what you just said, it would sound like you'd like to get this done.
Just like I said, I think we're losing valuable time. I really do. I hate to see him go through another year of that. And all the children and the teachers there. I think it's unfair for those elementary teachers at both schools to be babysitters the last hour of the day instead of the instructors that they've been charged to be. That's my opinion on it. Now, that being said, if this doesn't go through, I would hope that our elementary schools would also look at the schedules and tweak them so we don't have, say, math in the afternoon and we have our specials in the afternoon. But thank you.
Donna?
I'm on the fence too as far as giving more time because I see the value of having support from parents and students. But I'm torn also as I read and look at pages and pages of studies that support later start for high school and valuable time for the elementary children. And I think you quoted the number of hours, I forget what they were, that over 4 years, elementary children gain more learning time. And I just ask that as we consider whether it's extension of time, decision to stay the same or change, that people look at the research that's out there.
I would point out for people who are watching on television that Donna, although she's only become a member of the school committee today, has been at a tremendous number of our meetings over the last few months. And I will state that her opinion is based upon her being here and hearing a lot of previous discussions. Thank you for attending when you weren't even a member yet. Anyone else? I have a couple of questions. When you did the survey among the teachers, how did it break down by school? Or can you tell us that next week, how that?
I can. So I haven't, I can tweak in the filters of, you know, if we go and say, you know, high school staff, well, actually, if we want, we can start with the elementary staff. You know, we've heard, you know, where they are, and you know, sort of lead down to the last questions, and you'll see that, you know, that they're kind of split on which of the changes, but, you know, that either a compromise or, you know, or a flip makes more sense for them. And there's, you know, just over 10% that are, you know, stay where we currently are. And then we could go the other extreme if we go with the feedback that we had at the last school committee meeting and go to the middle school and staff and jump down to the last question. And, you know, they're at least inclined to like the flip model, and you know, more in favor of the current, but could go somewhere with a compromise. And then we go to high school. And high school staff. Last question. So the high school staff would vastly prefer to keep it running.
So despite the fact that when you take all of the teachers as a group, it ends up being essentially useless. When you break it down by school, my impression is that the elementary school teachers are generally in favor of the flip. The high school teachers are generally against any flip, and the middle school teachers side with the high school. Is that your understanding from your data?
I think that would be pretty accurate. I think there's more in the middle school that would be, that opt for some sort of compromise was, it was bimodal, so to speak.
Which might make sense in light of the fact that middle school has basically kids just out of elementary school and kids on their way to high school. So that might be the reason they would support a compromise.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Russell.
Just to follow up, Mr. Chair, and it's self-evident. We have 3 different target audiences. We have children, K through 12, mothers and dads, in staff. And in many areas, all 3 would have different motivations why they would favor A or B or C. And none of those are going to be totally agreeable, even with a year of raising knowledge base. So at some point, someone's going to have to say, despite all of what we've heard, one thing I mentioned 2 weeks ago that I think is valuable, and it comments what Amy said as well as Don. We just invested $250,000 or $300,000, somewhere around there, including about $50,000 in training our K through 7, at least in the first phase, in a new math program. And that group went and found out from 3, 5, 7, including Falmouth, #1 score MCAS math towns that have used this kind of term Singapore math plan or whatever the official name is. And they came before us a month and a half ago with highly motivated to say, let's give this a try. I was very convinced to have all 5 or 6 of the staff members so much unanimity amongst their feeling, as well as Dr. Blanchard. Here we are launching that finance in the hope that in 2 or 3 years we'll see the kids learning at a level a little bit far in the last 4 or 5 years, because our math scores in K through 8 have been poor. No doubt about it. We're not where we should be at level 1. And if we thought this extra 900 hours, or we thought this extra switch would be a further benefit, that's a real good thing. Unfortunately, we either need to sell this idea or bite the bullet and just do it anyways. So that math, there are more youngsters, I think, in the K-8 model, K-7, than there are even in the high school. So it's trying to balance what the 3 audiences would like. And one of those balancing balls or swords will drop, because one group won't like our decision. But at some point, we've had to make those decisions the last few years about other things here, and after a while, maybe no one's haranguing us, but life moves on. And if it seems to be a positive thing with some schools going that direction, notwithstanding the math program, it's something serious we need to look into. Again, A, that's my thought. B, would 10 months of selling the idea is a good thing, be a good thing for us? So that's my other thought. That would the mothers and dads who are on the fence about what would be best, at least, as I've said, I'm repeating myself, at least they'd say that the school committee and the superintendent gave this a 12-month consideration before moving forward, recognizing the youngsters this year in grade 3 are losing now, but that's been happening for years and years and years.
Anyone else? I actually have another comment too. The concern I have for the suggestion of putting it off for a year is based upon the numerous surveys and numerous petitions and things, and given the position of the various parties, and it's natural that the interest of the parties reflects, or the decision, or the opinions of the parties reflect their personal and household interests. I don't think that's going to change. I don't think that's going to change in a year. I don't think if we did this next year or the year after, we would get a significantly different result from this kind of input from the people who are involved in this. I was interested in your idea about getting more information from other sources, but I don't think that putting it off for a year, I think putting it off for a year is going to have a negative effect on the elementary school, who has suffered from this since we started, essentially, by having the start times as they are. But I would really, if you were more specific about what further information that we don't already have that we could accumulate over the course of the year, personally, it would make me more interested in putting it off, but that's what I'd like to hear more about, because I don't think we're going to get a different opinion from anybody in a year. Okay, Sharon.
So to me,
Who's next?
I don't even know if it's timely that we could get this done now for this next year or not, but the middle school principal, I think, last time we talked about this, said something about the buses shouldn't drive this decision. And what we're hearing, because what I had said is verified by this, that, I mean, I have to assume that the teachers are reflecting what they see from the students, more so than babysitting and other things. And so on that, it's clear that the elementary school wants or needs to go earlier. It's at least a half an hour later than it used to be. It's clear also that the other two schools are not saying that. So if we got information from buses all around, bus companies, about what is the opportunity for this year or for next year of us having everyone have what they want for this. The buses, it sounds like if the middle and high school could go at 8:15 or something, and the elementaries could go at 8:15 or thereabouts, that people would be happy. It's a little bit later for that middle and high school, but not significantly, and it's that difference that the elementary want. So the bus thing could solve all of this problem if we could find that.
Karen?
Both Joy and Mark Wilson brought up that we shouldn't be driving this decision based on the bus schedule, and I agree. My thought about putting it off for a year was just so that people can put in place what they need to cover gaps in babysitting time, the after-school programs that would change, the before-school programs that would change. I realized that it wouldn't be ideal for the elementary school to put it off for a year, but that was my thinking in putting it off, was just that time is short now and parents are going to have to make other arrangements, and the programs that we have in place are going to have to change before and after school.
Terry?
To respond, Brian, as far as what would a year take, or bias, I don't know how much knowledge base would grow based on some type of study. But I know some would get used to the idea. Some wouldn't, but at least there would be an so I don't have any dramatic thought that everyone would come to the altar and say what an epiphany this is. But the year would buy us that, at least an opportunity to say, there's been, and Karen's comment about those pieces that would have to be put together, that's a reasonable thing to make certain that could happen. The second thought, and it really is just that, I have no idea, because I've never looked into it except in the career, how Sharon or even Karen, you're thinking maybe Nauset, not Chatham, but DY, Barnstable, other excess non-town buses would somehow come together and help us by bringing some of our kids at those two tiers. Something like that.
Yeah, the bus company would probably, well, I don't know, superintendents could look into that, and the bus company.
I have no conception of that ever being able to happen, because every company, this is just my opinion, every town negotiates with their buses for the lowest number of buses to the lowest price, and how they could then make the run over to our region to make certain is right at the moment beyond me to have that happen. And I know maybe the principal of middle school said that decision shouldn't be driven by the buses, but the reality is many decisions are based on things that we wouldn't want them to. But that is the case, if somehow when you make a master schedule that has to require two-tier. So anyways, the year delay may in fact gain us something, it may not.
Steve?
From a pure economic standpoint, having everybody go together at the same time doesn't work. We have a hard enough time getting our budgets passed with our normal increases that we're looking for, without adding another $650,000 to $900,000 to the budget to get everybody to school at the same time. So I don't really think that is a feasible way to do it.
Karen?
I understand what you're saying. You're looking at increased bus cost, but I'm just wondering if there's some solution where the bus cost will not increase, that the schools could go at the same time or close to the same time. I mean, it's worth exploring the idea at least, as long as it doesn't increase our budget. I understand what you're saying.
But to transport our student body all at the same time, we need to double the buses, because the buses we currently use do 2 runs. So to do it all at the same time, you have to double it.
Why couldn't there be like a bus share type of situation? I don't know, but I'm just saying, can we look at something else, some other solution, before just saying no? That's all I'm saying.
Sharon?
I agree with that. I mean, you may be right. We don't have the information. For instance, all the technical schools all start at the same time. They have their own buses. Now, if they want to go the exact same time we want the buses, that's obviously not going to work. But if by any chance they go at a different time, those buses might be free for us. I can't really think of all the possibilities, but it's worth just checking into.
I want to follow up on your follow-up to my follow-up. The idea that we might get more information, one of the things you mentioned was to visit other systems, other school systems, and see how it worked out for them, and I think that's a great idea. If we decide to go that far, then I think that's a great thing we should do. And it's only anecdotal what I'm about to say, so take it with that proviso. But I happened to was at the Cape Cod Collaborative meeting last Wednesday, and the topic of our school start times came up at the collaborative meeting. And for those who don't know, the collaborative is the executive board of the Cape Cod Collaborative is made up of a school committee representative from all of the towns on the Cape and in the islands. And there was a lot of interest and a lot of curiosity about it. There were 3 members there, one from the school committee of Brewster, one for the school committee of Wellfleet, and one for the school committee of Nauset, who all spoke up and started off by saying how much people did not like the idea of doing it. And I thought, well, here we go. This is going to be the negative side of it. And they went on for quite a while and talked about how people, it was like they had done that at one of our meetings. People objected to the change in their own schedules. They objected to the start times. They objected to waiting on the bus. But all 3 of them agreed that after the Nauset had changed after a few years, they did another survey and discovered that essentially everybody who had adapted to it thought it was a much better system than it was before that. Again, that's only anecdotal, it's only one system, and we're not trying to be Nauset, as people like to say, but they have been through this, and you can take that for what it's worth. Anybody else? Nancy?
So I came in thinking something totally different than what I'm about to say, so we'll see how this goes. Looking at the elementary school, I have real concerns about what Amy was saying, how the kids are ready to go and earlier in the day, and they're shot by the end of the day. And then you go to the middle school, where we had Mr. Wilson, make sure that we're making the decision that's best for the students at the middle school, not what's best for the high school, what's best for the elementary school, and the middle school just follows along. And so I have that in my brain. And then we have the high school, and the question of what is best for the high school, is it academically driven, is it athletically driven, is it extracurricular driven? And what I came in, like I said, what I had in my brain coming before versus now is a little bit different, because while the high school students very eloquently stated that they don't want the change because they're afraid that they're going to be getting out later and then having to do their homework later and going to bed later, so it's kind of a wash for them. They're saying it's basically going to be a wash. They're not going to benefit from the later start time because they're going to be staying up later, and therefore they won't get that benefit. And the benefit to the elementary school doing the flip would benefit them academically. So again, that's not at all what I had in my head coming in. But I think that's an important point to remember, is that we're looking at what's best for the kids' academics. While extracurriculars and sports are a huge part of school, and they're a huge part of for my kids at school, and they were a huge part for me at school, and they're a huge part. We need to focus on the academics. And I'm not saying my mind is not going to completely change again in a week, and the more I read, and I love reading all of the letters, so I really want to encourage people to send in the letters, because we are reading them. Somebody thought it was just a ploy to make them think that they actually had a say, so they didn't want to fill out the survey, and I said, no, we're actually going to look at the results, so please fill it out. But I just think that we need to focus on, even though we are hearing the students at the high school, and I'm sorry, I forgot your last name, the elementary school teacher.
Oh, Katie Cloney.
Thank you, Cloney. We're hearing from her that the elementary school kids can't speak up, and they're not here. My elementary school kids spoke up to me yesterday and said, Mom, how are you voting? And I said, Jacoby, I can't tell you how I'm going to vote. That's not allowed. Yes, you can. You can tell me. I can keep a secret. And I'm like, listen, I have a lot of evidence of you not being able to keep a secret. So he said, what do you think? And I was like, well, I can tell you my personal opinion. Me, as your mom, as Becca's mom, as a family, this is my personal opinion. My personal opinion would be that it would be a good idea for these reasons. Yes, he says. And he's like, I want to go to school. He said, I think we should go to school at 7:30. I was like, I don't. At 7:30, I don't like your compromise, Mr. Carpenter, sorry. But I think it's important to focus on academics for all the levels. Not just focus on the elementary school academics, but also look at the solution and whether or not this is a good fit for all pre-K through 12 academics.
Sharon.
I totally agree that we need to focus on the academics, but having been a teacher at the elementary school for a long time and a counselor at all the different levels, for many kids, the extracurricular is the thing that holds them together and the only reason for many, even honor roll kids, that they love school. I know a lot of honor roll kids that they love going to school because they see their friends and because of whatever their extracurricular activity is. So it holds kids at the low end and the high end together. Also, having been a counselor at the high school for 7 years, most colleges are expecting and requiring a whole lot of extracurricular. If you diminish that, it's going to hurt the kids. So I'm not disagreeing with any of this that's been said. I just don't want us to forget that there are other important things also.
Nancy.
Just to follow up on you, I'm not trying to say extracurriculars are not going to happen. I just think that
They won't. No, I mean, you can't take two. Now, right now, you can take 2 extracurriculars, and you'll be able to take one otherwise.
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
For the middle and high school, right now, if a kid's highly motivated, they can take, say, the play and Little League or something. I mean, I'm using that example because my granddaughter's doing both of those. There'd be absolutely no way, and the play takes half the year. And, all these different things, you cannot fit them in. There'll be absolutely no way to fit them in if you plan on doing homework at all.
Nancy.
I think that there could be. And I say this only because I look at, even an elementary schooler who gets out currently at 3:30, 3:25, and goes to, granted it's an hour, but he has a karate until 5, and then he goes, unfortunately, right now, straight from karate to lacrosse, which granted he doesn't have the homework. And when he finishes up at 6:30, he still has time. If he wasn't 8, he wouldn't be going to bed at 7:30, but he'd be staying up a little later. But I don't think that it would reduce extracurriculars. I don't think. I mean, I would be interested in asking and looking around to see what other people say, but I don't think so.
Anybody else? I'm going to, since nobody else has anything to say about this topic, we're going to move to the next agenda item. I'm going to just state as a policy, or as an idea that I have about running these meetings. One of my goals is going to be that our meetings don't run late into the evening. And so I'm going to propose, I'm going to say this tonight, and I'm going to try to enforce it in later nights. I think that what would make a lot of sense, which is a nice way of saying this is how I'm going to do it, is that when we have people before us who are providing us information, I'm not going to close down anybody who has any questions, because obviously our primary goal is to obtain evidence and information so that we can make an informed opinion. But when we get to the point where we're discussing the topic that we have then studied for a significant period of time, I'm going to try to initiate a process by which we are limited to speaking twice on any one topic. And I only say that so we've talked about this. Everybody has a very useful thing they have to say. I would ask that when we discuss this the next time, between now and then, please formulate your thoughts and take notes, whatever it takes, because I'm going to try to limit to two discussions per person per meeting. Obviously, I'm not going to hold firm to that in something that's as important as this, but that is going to be a goal of mine throughout the year, both in respect to our own time, because we're all volunteers here who have other lives, and also the people who've come to speak before us, who are waiting a long time to speak or to make presentations. And I think we should respect everyone's time. So that's what I'm telling you. Sharon.
So I respect what you're saying on that. The problem I would have with that isn't would be, I guess, if new information, if somebody said something and there was a response that...
Questions are always, at any time, a question for more information is going to be as many questions as you want. But when it gets to comments and opinions based upon that information, I really think we ought to be able to narrow. I mean, you can talk for 10 minutes if you want to talk on one of your two times, but I think we can get through these meetings and make intelligent decisions without necessarily spending all evening, except obviously on times where we clearly need to do so. Karen, did you?
I was just nodding in agreement.
Oh, good. I thought you had your hand up.
No.
Oh, Amy, did you have your hand up?
I just had a question about how it was going to be, whether we were looking at, next week looking at the 3 times or the compromise, but then I answered the question in my head that it would depend on how the vote was phrased.
Anybody else? Okay. The next item on the agenda is the Monomoy Regional Middle School Improvement Plan. Mr. Wilson.
I'll be brief.
I haven't got to how long I'm going to limit other speakers.
Passing out to you good evening, Mark Wilson, principal of Monomoy Middle School, here to present the school improvement plan. Passing out to you a hard copy of the improvement plan that you probably received electronically, and a copy of the PowerPoint that I'll be sharing with you this evening. For those of you who are interested, there are copies up on the table if you'd like to follow along. First, a bit about the process. The school improvement plan is developed by our school council, and I'll introduce some of the members who are here tonight. I did want to give you a snapshot of the middle school website that shares the agendas from our school council meetings. We started in September, and at the last Monday of every month. Always had a posted agenda and had that up, and then had the minutes from all of those meetings again posted once they were approved at the next meeting, so that anybody in the community or outside the community can kind of follow the evolution of this plan as it began in September and then came to a special session on May 2nd where our school council then approved this plan as a draft to bring to the school committee. I want to thank the members of the middle school council Janet Auer, Joe Jordan, and Kim Robbins, who were parents who served on the committee, and our 2 teachers who served, Sherry Armstrong and Peg Lynn. I would share that their attendance was always consistent, and their contributions are always fantastic. It was a wonderful group to work with all year long, and I really want to, I know Joy's here and Peg is here, and I want to say thank you very much to coming out, and hopefully they can maybe make a couple comments by the time we're done as we go through. And Principal Millen, when she presented her school improvement plan a few weeks ago, set a high bar, so I wanted to make sure that we cleared that as best we could. We've got a few things that are unique about the middle school improvement plan. One is it's a narrative format that gives you some insight into really the thinking that and the conversations we had around the table about where we wanted to go. So if you have a chance to read our school improvement plan, you've seen that. And then some powerful themes that I'm going to use to highlight some of the main things that we'll be working on. I call them the CCSS themes. For those of you in education, you probably think that means Common Core State Standards. I'm having some fun with this and making a pun. I'm going to highlight various aspects of our school improvement plan under the areas of citizenship, creativity, scholarship, and stewardship. The kind of 2 C's and 2 S's that I'd like to focus on for this evening. So as I go through here, all I'm doing is pulling out various steps from our school improvement plan and categorizing them under these 4 themes. For citizenship, we're very excited about constructing and teaching units that leverage the unique history and environment of Cape Cod. 2 of the things specifically we're going to do to help move that forward in the building is to train staff in service learning. That's an instructional approach that seeks to make partnerships between our school and other agencies in the surrounding community. A good example of that is when our school constructed the 2 vernal pools a few weeks ago in partnership with the Chatham Conservation Foundation and the Mass Audubon Society. And another one that we have planned for next year, we're going to partner with the Center for Coastal Studies out of Provincetown to be able to do water quality monitoring studies in Pleasant Bay, using remote operated vehicles that we're designing in our STEM classes, and actually creating the actual vehicles using our 3D printer and our laser cutter. So students are actually designing right now some of the devices on our ROV that will then get printed, and then we create those devices, and they're going to be able to capture some of that data for the larger study from Cape Cod Center for Coastal Studies. And we're also doing capstone projects that address environmental issues and matters of social justice. So you can see our schools start to have a strong identity around those 2 things. Those 2 that I just mentioned about the partnerships are very strong about environmental issues. And we're looking at matters of social justice. We have a Human Rights Academy that's very active and has been partnering with the high school, and those things are really advancing our citizenship initiatives. We've also established and sustained a culture that celebrates growth, achievement, and citizenship. Do you know about the SHARK initiative? Some of your parents do. It has been wildly successful. SHARK in our building stands for self-disciplined, hardworking, attentive, respectful, and kind. And we've developed some descriptors for each of those attributes. And as students display those, they get signatures from their classroom teachers. And at the end, when they've got their 20 signatures and fill out their SHARK sheet, they receive what must be the most coveted item in the region at the moment, is a pullover and a blue SHARK citizen dog tag that demonstrates they have demonstrated the type of attributes we're looking for. So that's going very well in our building. And if you have not had a chance to get to our SHARK Citizenship Breakfast, we have another one next Thursday from 7:40 to 7:55 a.m. in the cafeteria. You're more than welcome to come by and see that ceremony in front of our student body and see the awarding of 22 SHARK citizens next Thursday. And something unique that the custodial staff is very excited about, we're going to have our students involved in building maintenance and upkeep. I'll be sending a letter out shortly to moms and dads asking for the permission for students to come to school on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday after school is actually gotten out to actually help with the reconditioning of the building for next year. So they will be handling only environmentally safe products and doing things like cleaning lockers and cleaning desktops. It's something they've done in a different school district that went extremely well. Creativity. In our school improvement plan, there are several goals that, again, I'm just pulling them off and labeling them here so that it's a little bit more fun to kind of share this information with you. We want to improve our environment to advance student learning. We're going to upgrade our STEM lab to a flexible space for student collaboration and design. That'll be a maker space. Students can come in and work on some design goals with their teacher. At the moment, that lab is filled with computers that were the state-of-the-art model in 2003. Yes, it's a very good year. It's a wonderful year for, it's a good vintage for and so we'd like to be able to get that updated, and we can do that with the kind of existing resources. It doesn't require anything above and beyond what we can do within our operating budget. We'd like to expand STEM instruction and provide fifth graders with a foundational course in technological literacy. That ties in well with the next one on promoting 21st century skills, where we're going to initiate a one-to-one lease-to-own Google Chromebook initiative through the building. Our hope is that we can have every student with a Chromebook in their hands by next fall. You're going to get more information from me shortly on that. But even if we can't get to that point where every student has one, we want to lay the foundation for students being able to use Google Chromebooks and some of the tools through Google Classroom to organize their learning and their experiences, and make sure as they move through our curriculum, they have those skills. As was mentioned here a few weeks ago, that where in the curriculum do students learn how to organize electronically, how to keyboard, how to be efficient that way. And we're going to take up that clarion call and make sure that we have that within our curriculum for our grade 5 students. And we're also going to construct those interdisciplinary stream units that allow our students to explore some of the science, technology, reading, engineering, art, and mathematics that will make a very rich experience for them as they move through the middle school. And lastly, we're going to increase the number of defining moments we have within the middle school experience by pursuing some unusual opportunities that help define our students, and we're going to ask them at the end of the year to reflect on the year and give us what was the most powerful learning moment they've had. And we're hoping to share things like the all-school field trip up to Boston to see Mary Poppins. I will share, I have not come across another principal anywhere in Massachusetts that has run an all-school field trip on a single day, so it was a very unique thing for us to do. And talking about busing and how we solve busing problems, I will share that on the day we went to Mary Poppins, every student at Monomoy Middle School arrived and was on school grounds at 6:45 a.m. with zero transportation from any bus in Monomoy. And it was the day, other than the first day of school, that day was when we had the highest percentage of attendance. So as long as we build brilliant activities for students and ask parents to transport their children, we'll get them to buses. Sounding better and better. Ask me to think outside the box, and this is one of the things we're trying to create, is a school so powerful and interesting that it doesn't matter whether you're on buses, moms and dads will get their kids to our school.
Surely you had more hair when this program started.
I'm going to negotiate it into my next contract. Scholarship. We want to strengthen our curriculum by adopting a standards-based common format for unit design. There has been some training within the district in understanding by design, which is used by 40% of the districts in Massachusetts to develop their curriculum. However, in the last year and a half, we've actually hired almost 30% of the staff. So we want to make sure that those trainings are kept fresh for our new staff who come in. We have different, some of them have some background, some of them do not. So we want to make sure we keep that training current and embed differentiated instruction into the unit design, which is something that we can do to kind of enhance our approach to it. And then use common assessments to track progress and provide training and support as we implement the new math and focus program. So there's sort of part and parcel of what we do in curriculum instruction is developing units and making sure that our staff are effective in delivering those. And the other thing we want to do is improve student ability to analyze complex texts. So within our faculty professional development model, we'll be modeling some approaches to literacy instruction. Some things that we've done this year is introduce staff to the Socratic seminar as an approach to get students to be actively engaged and reflective in their reading. And in other pieces of literature like art or poetry or photography, it doesn't necessarily have to be written text that students work closely with. And then we'll be focusing on high-yield strategies that come from research, and there's 3 of them that are on the board. There are 9 actually, high-yield strategies, and we'll look at those to make sure that they're common practices in our classrooms. And we'll use the observation evaluation process to make sure that staff are often using these strategies to help their students make academic gains. And lastly, in stewardship, making sure we take care of those things that we need to do both with parents and with students and staff. We would like to explain our grading practices by publishing a syllabus for each course, and we hand those out on parent-teacher conference nights and the curriculum night that we have in the fall. And common across the middle school and the high school, we want to improve the timeliness of our school-to-home communication through Aspen. Anytime that a parent logs into Aspen, they should be able to see very current data about how their children are performing, what assignments have been given, what assignments have been graded, what the scores were, and have that in a way so that there's never any surprises in what a student's performance is as we reach the end of the term. And last one, yes?
Mark, just a question. Do you have a rough percentage of the staff presently using Aspen?
All the staff have to use Aspen every time we get to progress reports.
Yeah.
And it began last year with, I'd say, some staff using it on a regular basis, and now most of our staff are using it on a regular basis. And our goal by next year is to have all staff have their data entered within no more than 10 school days upon the submission of a student assignment. So that's the expectation moving forward. But we have 100% use, and now it's kind of calibrating the quality of it rather than just getting them to use it. We do have a parents group that Jordan, actually I gotta give her credit, she was sort of the sole person on our parents group, and I can share that our group has grown, so at 1,200%, we went from 1 to 13 percentages. So we've got a nice group of parents that are coming in together, and really with the goal of creating good culture for students and staff, and that's kind of been this whole year. If you had a chance to get to our fall beach and bonfire in Harwich, it was a wonderful evening. I still think it was a lot of fun and very, I think, comforting in terms of what our school is about, and a lot of staff came. It was kind of a Norman Rockwell moment out on the beach. We'll be doing more programs like that, and we'd also like to see the position of the VIPS advisor that has kind of sat in the budget but not been filled, sort of reinvigorated and brought back, because we have a lot of community members and parents who love to play an active role in our kids' education through partnerships and special laws that they have. To have someone who can help coordinate that would be very, very helpful. So I think, in a short summary, there's a lot of work in the school improvement plan. So there's a lot more in there than I've spoken to this evening. But what I wanted to share with you really is that if you look at those things through the lens of creativity, citizenship, stewardship, and scholarship, you'll see those themes resonate across the different areas on the approved district template. And I just wanted to kind of highlight those this evening and just share that these are ambitious goals that we put in front of you. It says 2016 to 2018, so the lines of the district strategic plan. There's likely more here than we can accomplish in 2 years, and you just need to know right up front that in middle school we don't shy away from, we'd rather set ambitious goals that we may not be able to get all the way to, rather than set goals here and claim that we've been successful when we could have done more. So this plan by itself, I think, lays out nicely what our expectations are. So we'll be working towards those goals over the next 2 years, and I'll come back to you from time to time and with great honesty say this is where we are and what's going very well, and this is what we have more time to do, and this is what we may need more resources to accomplish.
Okay.
So you will get that very honest feedback as we go along.
Mr. Russell.
Mark, great job. I'm humbled. My memory serves me. I'm glad I'm retired. Excellent job. I have a question that links staff and staff evaluation with your Monomoy Middle School strategic plan. Now, I could be mistaken, but I think staff might have to come up with at least tenured staff 3 or 4 goals, of which 1 or 2 could be theirs. I could be off by 1 or 2 numbers. But is that your opportunity at times to have them marry into this strategic plan so that they choose the 1 or 2 from the leadership? You're able to say this, the vast majority of staff have this. You're nodding, so it must be a simple.
No, your question is perfect. I appreciate it.
You gave it to me earlier this afternoon. I wish I was waiting, but it's such a long election this afternoon.
So one of the things we're going to do with the staff, actually, we've done this with other documents that we want to have a shared ownership of. So I'll actually post this in September, and I'm going to ask staff, they're going to have 2 colored dots, and one of them is going to be something in this plan that I'm really excited and passionate about, and something in this plan that I know might be a lot of work, but if we accomplish it, it's going to be great for our kids in our school. And they're going to put those dots up, and we'll see some consensus across the staff emerge around things we love and things we know that are powerful, and those are the things we're going to focus on first. And then through the SMART goal setting, we ask staff to then connect a SMART goal with something that they care deeply about and something they know is going to be really good for our school. So it makes this document have a shared ownership and be meaningful not only for individual staff members, but for us as a whole, which things emerge as the kind of our focal areas. And then those are the ones that when I give feedback to you, I'll say, we've got 35 people working on this, and this is where we're at on this. And other things might be 1 or 2 people, and I'll still be able to give you the progress. But it'll be because they chose it, because it was important to them, resonated with their heart, resonated with their mind. We try to move the building forward that way.
Excellent.
Sharon.
I loved this presentation. It was really exciting.
It's short, too.
It was short, very short. So that's this. And then this here is hard to understand. There's a lot of terms that probably in your groups you understand, but I don't understand it all. For instance, the school just chose a math curriculum and a math textbook for K through 7.
Yep.
And so that is pretty much that's all tied into the Common Core, and that will pretty much cover math. Is that correct or not correct?
Yes, it certainly will address some of the content. I would say some of the instructional strategies that go along with that math content are the things that we'll be providing through professional development.
Great. And so, as far as the other subjects, not math, is there a textbook or are the teachers required to make up all the lessons?
Some of both. I don't know how specifically you want me to go into each grade level or each course. We have textbooks in place for grade 5 social studies. In grade 6 geography, we have some online materials and some text materials that we use. In grade 7, we do not have an ancient world history textbook, so staff create those instruction units from what's available, either existing materials or from the web. So, so from that perspective, we don't have the same thing in place everywhere that we have at the moment for
So for language arts, that's not the same?
They're exploring their literature, so they'll have class sets or grade level sets. I've been a big believer in sort of shared experiences for our students. So over the course of this year, a number of staff have said, we'd like to do, for instance, the finest hours. So I don't know if you were up to that. Our 6th grade students as a whole read that text as an informational text. It was a new book for Monomoy. It's a new title that was just published. And then we partnered with the Coast Guard. They came out and sent some guest speakers to us. We went out to Chatham Light and did a trip there, went to the Historical Society. So those are the units that created, and there's no textbook out there that has that. It was unique for Monomoy and the opportunity for us to take advantage of our local schools.
And I have to say about these plays that you brought up earlier, not Mary Poppins, but I know that they went to the I don't know if it was just 5th grade or all of them went down to the Drama Guild and saw the play there.
Yes, yeah.
And they loved, these are wonderful experiences with literature and with connecting to the community. So I know that there are fabulous things going on. And I'm a great supporter of the direction this is going in. My concern is that I want to have steps so that like every single teacher achieves, just like we want every single student to achieve the math curriculum or whatever, and not have so much to do that people feel way overloaded. That's my only concern.
I'll share back, I guess, echo what I just shared when I answered Terry's question, is that our math teachers are going to put their bullets on math, and we'll focus on that and make sure that we're providing the support for them so that, I guess the best way to answer this is differentiated professional development. We don't give the same thing to every teacher. We don't give the same thing to every student in the room, because that's not what they need. We don't give the same thing to every teacher in the room. This group is going to be passionate about environmental issues, and that group's going to be passionate about social justice, and that group's going to be passionate about math. And our goal is to differentiate what we do to make sure we're servicing all of our students in a way that connects with department head. I don't know how else to phrase that.
Thank you.
It strikes me, the finest hour, we all saw the film in downtown Chatham and how powerful a story it was. For our start time, that would be a nice theme, the finest hour. And let that go for the next 3-4 months, a year. What is that finest hour? I was just offering that as a lighthearted way of saying it's almost time to go home.
That's why you have to wait till the chair recognizes you.
I'm sorry. I am not worthy.
Amy?
Just thank you and kudos.
It's a great
Excellent.
school and a great staff.
Great.
It's fun. Thank you.
We're glad you're here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well put, Amy. I'm sorry.
I was going to say,
Elementary school playground and beautification account is the next item on the agenda. I guess that would be Chatham Elementary School playground, is that correct?
So we figured something out on the way to the forum today.
It is
In
both.
front of you.
Okay.
I have to say, this is the only time that I'm happy about the start time, because I get another hour's sleep tomorrow morning. But anyways, so we are here today because, just like Mark just said, I'm Robin Millen, the principal at Chatham Elementary School. We said that we would be back to you to keep you updated on the school improvement plan, and where I'm at right now is I want to just update you on the good, the bad, and the swale movements that we talked about in the school improvement plan the other night. So the Chatham Elementary School Playground and Beautification Committee has been started. We brought that to you just several weeks ago, but they had a prior committee. We brought it back together. We have had them meet several times this year, but most frequently last meeting. There are 22 members of this committee, so I'm not going to read them all, or we will be here till tomorrow morning. But I do want to let you know it's 7 members of the CES and the Monomoy staff, including Rick Travers, and our building, our new lead custodian inside of our building. There's 7 parents. There's 2 town officials on the committee. There's 4 community organization members and philanthropic members on the community, on this committee, and then there's actually 2 business members as well. So it's a nice rounded group who are all really dedicated towards making the grounds a better place for our children, but also for the community at whole. So we have been going over some of the data that had been collected from the previous playground committee. We expanded it to include the beautification committee. And we looked at the last meeting on the must-haves that we have to have and the things that we really want to have, like those ideals that if we can get there, we will. So right now, tomorrow morning, we're having mulch delivered. Thank you to the school, but also thank you to Dan Tobin and the town. They're going to spread that mulch for us, so it's going to happen on Monday. That's all ready to go. That was a must-have. And then we received a $1,000 grant from the Friends of Trees, Inc., I think is the last end of that. They have awarded the school $1,000 to buy 4 shade trees, so those are going to be going into the ground as soon as we can lay out the plan for the rest of the movement. This committee, though, has also said that we need to have a pretty active fundraising campaign, and that's why we're here today. The drainage, the field, the swale, that's all town-related and us-related. We'll take care of that, but we are going to need to have a pretty active fundraising campaign going into the next couple of years to do some of those, what we would really like to do out there. So Katie's going to explain to you what we need, but I think we need approval, if she's still awake back there. We need approval to start a CES Playground and Beautification Fund. So as we go out to the community and ask for even more donations, she's shaking so much, right? As for those donations, we have a place to put them. We thought we were going to need an elementary school because I know Sam will bring you to his school improvement plan pretty soon, and I know his playground is also on his school improvement plan, or will be on his school improvement plan, so he has a fund already set up, so that's why I'm only standing here now. So we need, so I need your approval to open a Chatham Elementary School Playground and Beautification Fund.
I move to open the Chatham Elementary School grounds improvement plan.
Second.
Any further discussion? Any comments?
Howard Elementary has that. If you recall, when the Castle on the Cloud group came with the balance of the check, we established that account. So there was already an established account for Howard Elementary School, so it's doing the same. And both schools intend to really beef up the fundraising efforts. Playgrounds are expensive.
And I will update you on the progress in Harwich Elementary, Castle on the Cloud Playground, and so on in a couple of meetings from now.
Any further comments?
I
Sharon?
just have a question. This is wonderful. I really think it's wonderful. At one point, just before I retired, the playground had, so this is like 6 years ago, so they had like holes in places in the ground that kids could actually, little kids could disappear into. So I'm just going to be sure that we're working on not just beautification, but the safety aspect.
So Chatham Elementary School has a unique kind of history. So some of the holes in the ground, the children actually dig themselves because they dig for coal. They like to find the coal in the ground, and it's from the railroad. So that is one type of hole we've got going. So we're looking, this playground committee is actually coming up with, they're looking at having multiple sites so that the kids have other things to do besides dig the coal and more experiential things, so that we have things to do. The second problem we do have is that swale, and that was a drainage thing that they put underneath the original playscapes that were out there now. Nancy White is a playground inspector, and she has all those plans as to why the drainage and all of that was done. But at some point, and I don't know the history, the swale was closed, and I think it was because children were crawling into it. But Dan Tobin and the DPW have been out there to look at that, and we have a donation and a local company that's a septic company that's going to put a camera down there to see if it's open. And then if it is, we're going to put a different type of container over it. They literally, I know more about drainage now than I thought I was ever going to know, but they literally cement blocked it. So everything's still there, but now instead of it draining properly, everything's floating. So when it rains, it floats underneath. Nancy White has said the playscapes are floating on water. That's really what's happening.
Did you say the kids used to dig for coal?
They still do.
They still do.
You can come on.
Boy, elementary school kids are smarter than one. My friend told me I could dig far enough I'd get to China, and I believed him.
It's very hard to dig out there, though. It's like cement. It really is. It's but they do. That's what they spend the majority of their time out there. So that's why we have the sandbox and all the digging equipment out there, so that we can try to root them that way a little bit. We found something.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, strategic plan column 2.
So in your packets is the action steps for the second column of the strategic plan. The second column dealt with the strategic objective to strengthen parent and community partnerships in support of learning. I want to point out one thing. I think Terry had asked at the last meeting if we could put down if we thought or what might be a budget implication of some lines. So as we get through this, the only one that's sort of like this clear budget implication is this. program. And as Mark noted, we actually are carrying it in our budget. We just haven't, it hasn't been staffed. So from a budget perspective, it's there. It's now looking at resurrecting it, but we'll get to that. So the first strategic initiative under this was to support more consistent and effective use of the student information system, Aspen, as a communication tool to support, or for parents to support children's learning. And this kind of dovetails into things that you saw in the school improvement plan for Mark. The first thing here as an action step is to provide staff with expectations for communication with parents about student progress and performance. Essentially, right into a staff handbook. What are those expectations? How frequently? And if I go back to my own career, developing as an educator, we once upon a time didn't have email, and suddenly email came around, and there are these expectations that the administration came up with. It's sort of like the email etiquette. How long do you wait before you answer Joy Jordan's email on start times? So it's that developing that for the staff. And with them on what are those expectations. Next is provide annual training for teachers on the use of Aspen. In Jim's new role that he'll be going into as technology director, that's a piece of what he'll be doing. Next, we currently don't use Aspen at the elementary level, but it's a tool that we can use. It won't function the same way that the middle school and high school use it, but we can go and use Aspen as a tool for teachers to communicate with home on students' progress. And so again, it's giving those intermediate messages to home on how their child is doing, so that they can at home monitor progress and work collaboratively with the teacher. Then we have to provide an annual parent training on Aspen. So the tool is only as good as the parents understand how to use it. So it doesn't matter how much information the teachers are putting in. If the parents don't understand how to use it as a tool, it doesn't have the desired effect. So it's coupling that together. The second strategic initiative is to develop homework expectations for each grade level that address the diverse student needs. This one's going to take a lot of conversation happening at the teacher level. So first is to discuss with the academic councils the purpose of homework and how much is reasonable by grade level, and for the elementary, middle school, and high school. Next is to discuss with staff, to broaden it out from the academic councils, the teacher leaders, and this is to broaden it out to all of the staff. Again, if we want to move this forward, we need the buy-in of everyone. Next is to collect data, feedback from students and staff regarding homework. We move on to discuss with parents at parent meetings what the purpose of homework is, what's reasonable, how parents can support their children in this. Ultimately, this would culminate in creating homework expectations for each grade level. And again, I think it's this common thing that I don't think we really think about homework so much until you hit the high school level, and people start, it's like, well, how many hours might I have? But it's a question that you really need to kind of think about it before you're getting to high school, and look at it across the continuum there. And part of this, I think, again, as we launch into this new math curriculum that we're talking about when it comes to homework, I've mentioned this before to some. Nationwide, if we look at the testing results, students do much better in ELA than they do in math. And then if we ask, well, how much homework do they get with ELA? I mean, going to kindergarten, the teacher will say, you should be reading with your child, 20 minutes a day or 30 minutes a day. But is there a comparable thing that's happening on math? Yeah, is there 20 minutes or 15 minutes, or how much math are we giving? So again, to have that homework expectation not be just there's going to be an hour of homework, but to really emphasize, hey, if we want to go and see forward progress with math in focus, we need to be having X amount of time should be dedicated per week to math, this amount of time to the humanities. And then again, this would be we would want to then follow up. We would have this sort of baseline. Students and staff are saying that the homework loads are here, and then after you set expectations in place, continue to follow ups to make sure that are we reaching what this expectation is, or are we falling short?
Terry.
What was the question? Scott, I don't have an answer. Just there's a quandary here, and it goes back a lot of years once we began to introduce computers within the schools and Chromebooks to every kid. I wonder, the 7.5 youngsters, those kids who are really struggling in grade 5, 6, and 7, we move them along. The 8th grade and next year is the Learning Center support team. The number of parents who don't have access to Aspen equals the same youngsters on, I'm stretching it a bit, but free lunch, kids who have really shut down academically in school. And obviously the crew, our staff has the challenge to, how do you reach those parents in time to let them know a heads up?
Some of it, and again, I think these are some of the things that Jim will pick up on and learn, but the principals know this as well. Because our community has Comcast, there are initiatives that the cable companies have in both of our towns to provide very affordable or almost free access to technology for those families who don't have it, and the school principals and their staff can and do reach out to families to connect them with the technology. So it's not just we'll get you an internet connection, but they'll get a computer to have that access. So there's the students that we're giving the one-to-one to at the high school, everybody's covered there, but there are ways that families can go and get that Wi-Fi connection at home.
So the missile gap of the 60s, which didn't exist, maybe the gap with the haves and the have-nots without a Comcast or a computer, maybe it's not as bad as I would perceive it to be.
Terry, at my school, to speak to that, 2% of our parents don't have access to internet.
Wow.
And we reach out to them through telephone or communication bots.
Oh, that enlightens me. Thank you.
What do you think?
2% of the, Mark said 2% of the staff, 2% of the parents don't have that internet access.
My comment was going to be, believe it or not, the teachers still use that old-fashioned method about picking up the phone. And for those parents that do not have access or...
Like I don't have a cell phone, how would they reach me?
Well, believe it, they all have cell phones.
Thanks.
The third strategic initiative here is to include parent and community feedback in the decision-making process. The first action step here is to continue what we started last year, that end-of-the-year survey. What are we doing well? What can we do better? And I want to emphasize that survey wasn't just sent out to parents and not used. We brought the data here. In fact, for me, I started my opening comments to our staff where, here are the things parents are saying we're doing best, and here are the things that parents are saying we're not doing well, and here's the overlap, and what's it mean? It's important data to start with, and that data went back to the principals and was used by school councils to help inform the school improvement plans that you're seeing here. So there's a lot of this that's dovetailing together. So again, to continue that process and really see it happen each year. This past year, the survey that we sent out was just to parents, and what I'd like to see this year is when we send it out, expand it to the staff to have a, again, I think one of the things on the school committee goals is this assess the climate within the buildings, and I think that will be one of the tools that we can use to do that. Second in this initiative is the use of the school councils, and again, kudos to both Robin and Mark in their presentations. I think just the evolution that the school councils have had in the last year or two. I think the school council that that the middle school had, if we step back 2 years ago, we called a joint school council meeting with Harwich Middle School and Chatham Middle School, and a parent showed up, and and it's grown, it's gelled, and I really appreciate the efforts that Mark's brought here. That's parents and community members being involved in decisions that help drive the direction that the schools are going. And the last thing here is to next year hold meetings at each building level, again, to have those those conversations with the superintendent and the principal, and ask, how can we get you more involved? There's still a ways to go. I think while I think we're starting to see the school councils fire on all cylinders, we're not quite there in all of the buildings with PTAs and those parent groups, and we want to see those expand.
Mr. Carpenter. Hold on, I'm saying, Nancy.
Would it be possible to maybe dovetail that meeting with curriculum night? Because I just see another meeting that parents may not be able to go to, so you're saying more towards November, December. So maybe combine that with curriculum night where you're going to get more parents. Just a thought.
Like trying to get them, get parents there is the important thing.
Right, so if you have them already there, then maybe a little blurb then.
Let's consider that part A of this presentation and finish the rest of it at our next meeting, if that's all right with you. Remainder of this strategic plan, so we can move through the rest of our...
We can, although next meeting, I was intending to bring you column 3.
Okay.
It's a good thought, Brian.
Go ahead. I would...
My goal is to have by our first meeting in June be through all 4 columns and hopefully have.
And I didn't mean to suggest this isn't important. In fact, that's my concern. I think this is very important, and I don't want to have people at 10:15 not getting an opportunity to give you the feedback that is obviously very important to this. But if you're going to have presentation number 3 next time, then perhaps we should finish this.
But wait, there's more. So if it's okay, the strategic initiative D, or the 4th one, is to continue to develop strong school councils, PTOs, and DIPS programs in each school. So again, some of this we've already started to see happen this year with the school councils coming forward with school improvement plans that follow a unified format for the district. That if we go back to last year, there were 4 really different formats, and this is to try to bring them all together, dovetailing those with ultimately the strategic plan as well. Next, to make sure that that we see that membership in meetings, that we have sort of the consistency in membership. There are state statutes that spell out what school councils are supposed to look like, and just quickly commenting on Mark's presentation. There was 3 parents, there's 2 staff members plus Mark, have that balance that the state statute's saying, and then you'd have a community member, or at least a community member, as part of that school council as well. So it's getting there, seeing the school council minutes, the agendas posted, which is what Mark was showing you, to make sure that we're seeing that consistency across all buildings. In terms of PTOs, strengthening the PTOs, I think it's not unusual to see stronger PTOs at the lower grade levels, and as at least as a former high school person, to see parents seems to shift from the PTO mode to sports and supporting the sports program. At the moment here at the high school, we don't have a PTO group. There's one that has started to grow from one to several now at the middle school level. They exist at the elementary levels, but it's just trying to make sure that we get one started at the high school level and grow and support them all flourishing. One of the other things that we'll have, there'll be an email that will be going out for a sort of an all call to parents to get an all sports booster program started for the school district. So Brendan is planning to bring parents together next week to start that conversation, to have a program that's bringing parents together, thinking about all sports, and not just thinking about sports in silos where it's just friends of this sport, friends of that sport, but all sport booster programs are important to get things like a concession stand off the ground, or 10 years from now, 15 years from now, when there needs to be a major repair to the artificial turf out there, that there's a group that can come together to make it happen. And with not to compare us to Nauset, but it was that all sports booster group in Nauset that was able to go and allow them to attempt to keep up with the Joneses and to get a turf field at their campus, just like we were able to put one on here. And then the last and very important one is to resurrect a VIPS program. So it was on life support when I came here to the district. There are other districts nearby that have been doing VIPS programs, and in fact, Falmouth has a program that's sort of nationally known in terms of what the number of volunteers that they have as part of that program. We've talked as an administrative team about visiting, understanding what's involved. We know the stipend that we've set aside. What are they setting aside to go and have the impact that they're having, while at the same time not losing sight of connecting with people that had run the VIPS program in our two towns, and understand what that was prior to the district coming together. So again, to get that VIPS program back and running. The last strategic initiative, which is foster more community partnerships that support our educational mission and strengthen civic-minded decision-making and attention to global responsibilities. There's a lot of dovetailing here with the last strategic initiative on the first column that was looking at these community partnerships to support the science programs and the history programs that are happening in our schools. This here's that dovetail where we're identifying community science and history related partners with whom our students can collaborate. And again, this is starting to look at really bringing about these capstone projects in the district, and to have at key grade levels building towards these neat projects that really are celebrate the history and natural environment that surrounds us. We also have at the high school level a community internship program, and it's really expanding the opportunities, expanding the potential placements for students at that community internship. And then the last piece, and Mark has a number of teachers that are going to be embarking on this year, but it's really building capacity within the Monomoy school system by supporting our own staff understanding about how to really effectively embrace service learning within the schools. And Mark has a team that he's taking to start that, to start that training and to see that kind of grow, ideally kind of follow a train-the-trainer model that we're having the first round go out to then sort of plant those seeds in the rest of the middle school. And ideally, sort of radiate that out to elementary and high school.
Comments and questions? Sharon?
This looks wonderful. I have a tiny question, and that is, what is academic councils?
The academic councils are, this year we separated the elementary teacher leaders. We meet with them, so it would be all the grade level teacher leaders at both elementary schools meet with the principals, Dr. Blanchard, myself, and Ms. Goggin to discuss directions that the group feels the need to go to look at professional development needs for the group and how PLC time could be coordinated. And so you can imagine as we're coming together with this new math curriculum that there's going to be a significant amount of time that's going to be talking about, okay, how do we need to bring this together to move forward. And we do the same thing at the middle school and high school level. They meet together as a group with the administrators and central office staff. Same focus, it's just their department heads at the middle school and high school.
Thanks.
Amy?
I have a quick question back to the A section on the homework.
Yep.
So the idea of homework expectations kind of drives me crazy because within each home, it varies so much. One child might finish something in 20 minutes, which could take another child an hour and a half. And my question is, with the collect from students and staff homework feedback, is there a reason why parents aren't included in that survey?
I think it's a good point to add.
Okay, thank you.
Terry,
Just a housekeeping on the strategic plan, and my comment would go towards Barbara. At least in my home, and this is stacking up this high now with all of these, after we finish with the product, let's say in June, does the central office have like 8 binders, 8 plastic things that we could put this in for all of us so it jumps out? That's a head nod saying
We'll buy
yes.
it.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
In the budget. Tie goes to Donna.
I was looking for the page, but regarding the homework, it just listed on there, Collar and the principals, where the teachers fit into that equation.
I think this was just, I think where it's listing them, it's who would lead that discussion. So it's the teachers, the teachers would be involved in it. It's just, I think the columns asking who's leading it.
And I was also wondering, regarding the new math program, and almost every school improvement plan I see says professional development. Is there a master plan that designates the days and hours that, like, math is today, next week is this? Is there a plan, master plan?
There is, so there's a professional development calendar that gets created, and again, that I think when we get into column 3 is the main theme is supporting all learners, and it looks at learners as our students as learners and our teachers as learners. And one of those the key initiatives is that concept of a master plan, and this, the same way Jim Birchfield would be working with a set of teacher leaders in technology to have some of these 16 early release days that we have, where we have professional learning communities. How many of those each year are going to be focused on technology? How much math? How much? So, great question.
Karen?
Under 2A, you have assessment and compliance administrative assistant staff member. What is that?
So that would be the person that would be the Aspen expert for the school district that we had spoke about at I believe the last school committee meeting.
So this is the new position that's
Correct.
not been created yet?
Correct.
So
No, we created it.
Well, we've created it, we just haven't
In the
hired
budget.
for it.
do we actually have a job description for it?
That was our Monday meeting.
For Harwich
for
Town meeting.
Harwich Town meeting.
Right, miss, I'm sick.
No. Any further comments on the strategic plan, part 2, part 2?
Nice job.
Strategic plan continues next time. Item number 6, MREA Unit A Memorandum of Understanding. Agreement, I mean.
So this is in your packet as part of the technology reorg. The administrative, the person that Karen was asking about, this administrative assistant that is charged with assessment and compliance. There was a memorandum of understanding that we were able to go and discuss or have the committee vote on for Unit B. This is the Unit A side of that, which is would be the teachers, guidance counselors grouping. What this MOA essentially allows us to do is to move the position that Jim is currently in, which is this instructional technology specialist, and that gets absorbed to create this new position of Director of Instructional Technology. Some of the roles that Jim currently has as the instructional technology specialist is getting into classrooms and supporting teachers at the building level with the use of technology. This in number 3 creates instructional technology teacher leaders, one in each building, to help backfill what Jim is currently doing, to have those teacher leaders in the buildings. And Jim ultimately would be working with them and the principals on what are the professional development that needs to happen on technology. So they would be leading the professional development related to technology within those buildings. And then the last one here says that there would be one of these technology teacher leaders per building, and during the conversation with the MREA, there is a want, when and if the budget can support it, to have 2 at the high school instead of 1, and 2 at Harwich Elementary School, just being sensitive to the size of the facility, that the role that this person might have at Chatham Elementary School, which is much smaller than Harwich Elementary School, it's just trying to, they want to have some equity in terms of what that position might entail.
Any questions, any comments, any motions? Nancy?
I move to adopt. Which one? Yes, approve. I move to approve the memorandum of agreement between Monomoy Regional School Committee and the Monomoy Regional Education Association as presented.
I would second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain?
Abstain.
So moved. Last item on reports and discussion is superintendent, and action items is superintendent's contract. Well, who presents that? The former chairman was the one who negotiated it. Would you like to summarize the...
As we had discussed in executive session and with Superintendent Carpenter, the changes to the contract were a deadline date for us to inform the superintendent if we were not going to renew his contract. So, in the third year, we agreed that it would be a 3-year contract, that in the third year of that contract, we would, by February 1st, inform the superintendent whether we were or were not going to do another extension. There was the salary clause includes that it will be determined by his evaluation. The moving expense clause was taken out because you're here. We left in the stipend for getting his doctorate, and that was pretty much all the changes.
I entertain a motion to approve or disapprove the superintendent's contract.
I move that we approve the superintendent's contract as negotiated.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? None. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? That's 1 no. Okay. That's reports and discussions and action items. Are there any subcommittee reports? Hearing none, gratefully.
Wait a second.
Sharon.
It's not exactly a subcommittee report, but on our goals, we had said to visit the different schools, and I did visit the high school, and I just wanted to say that it was very informative, very pleasant. I was so impressed with the kids and their behaviors. Everybody was engaged in whatever they were doing. They were just starting a yoga class in one of them, and I understand there are a number of football players that have been drafted into that by some other yoga people, and visiting the dark room. When I went into the art room, that kind of looked like there was a time travel piece to the room. Went in this thing, and I wasn't sure what happened on the other side, but it was the dark room. So I just hope everyone gets to do that. I intend to go to the other buildings, but it was a really wonderful experience.
Thank you.
What time of day was the Sharon, the productivity of the
Well,
students?
this was the end of the day on a Wednesday that happened to be enrichment, or when they get to choose every 2 weeks some special thing that they do. It was really interesting. I expected to see more people kind of floating around or something, but when the principal, would say hi to the different kids as they were on their way, it was nice.
Mr. Carpenter, superintendent's report.
Sure. I just want to fill you in on 3 things quickly. The first is as part of the collaborative, Cape Cod Collaborative, they have been partnering with a local firm called Spiritus that looks at how we can go and connect our schools in the Cape with international students who may want to come here. I want to emphasize, some school districts have looked at this as, we're going to, bring in hordes and discussions of dorms and this and that. I'm not thinking of it with that lens. This is more an alternative to, or a way to augment what both of our towns have done for ages, which is our towns have used AFS to have exchange students come. There are companies like Inspiritus and others that will have students come from from other countries, and with them unlike the AFS students, also comes a per pupil expenditure. So there's $17,000 that's coming with the student in addition to the student. And there's those same cultural exchanges. They're living in our community. They're going to our schools, and with them comes money. To have that happen, one has to go and fill out some paperwork with now the Homeland Security folks, which is called the SEVIS paperwork process, which stands for Students Exchange Visitors Program. So I have to support Monomoy being part of the Cape Cod Collaborative's Cape Cod Global Education Initiative. I have been processing the SEVIS paperwork for our district, which involves ultimately myself and Mr. Burkhead, and I believe we'll have my assistant Barbara Susko need to share with the Department of Homeland Security that we are fit and suitable to process the paperwork, and there's a lot of training that ultimately Barbara will have to get some experience with in terms of the SEVIS applications themselves. But after that initial learning curve, we can then at least open our doors and say, this is a possibility. There is a nominal one-time upfront charge for this that's roughly $1,700 for the district and $600 for each school, in this case a high school. So it's a $2,300 initial charge to do the SEVIS paperwork. But I have at least started the process for us to be part of this partnership with the other Cape school districts.
Karen.
You mentioned something about AFS, and you've also talked about the fact that students that would be coming through this program would be bringing money. My concern would be that if this is going to be an alternative to AFS, AFS is a really good program, and it doesn't require students to bring money to our school district. In doing that, you could be leaving out a segment of certain kids that aren't going to be able to afford to bring money to the school district when they come on an exchange program. And I wouldn't want that to happen. I would like to keep AFS and make sure that we can still have kids come that aren't bringing money. I mean, the exchange program is very valuable, both directions. Having been abroad quite a bit, it's very valuable.
I think maybe a misconception there is you end up paying a fee, what would be a very similar fee to ASF to process and to do all of the paperwork documentation. This is having the school district involved so that the school district's processing the paperwork, not another company. So there's the families can go different routes. This is sort of one way to approach it, but the cost savings for the family is that they're not paying ASF a fee, they're paying the school district directly.
Karen.
But what is the difference in fees?
I have to go look into what a typical family that would be applying abroad to come here through ASF is paying.
Yeah, because I think it's a substantially lower fee. But that would be good to know. I just asked about the difference in fees as far as AFS.
If my memory serves me correctly, the AFS students pay in like $10,000. My AFS daughter from Norway paid the money. She didn't have to, and it was their country's policy. But it's like $10,000, and it covers insurance and those type of things. And they come in, they live with us. It's our expense to feed and, take them around. They're part of our family. And because they're living in my household, they get to go to school in the district as my child would.
Right.
And my daughter had signed up, and if she was going to go to Europe, it would have cost me $10,000, basically.
I knew about the part of, staying in the household, I guess it just
Right.
wasn't aware of the
Right.
fee part of it.
And she lived with another family who would feed her, and
Right, yeah.
Sharon?
I would not be supportive if this was to replace AFS, because AFS is something we know, and it's been here for at least 50 years. And my daughter was involved with AFS, where she went when she was a sophomore to Paraguay and lived with the family there. There could be a difference in price. I was a single parent. I could afford $1,000. I couldn't afford the other 1,000, say. And AFS fundraising made up the difference for that because it was very active. I'm not really sure what's happening now with AFS, if we have something active for fundraising. I really like the idea of, I'm not so concerned about the other countries sending kids here. I'm really concerned about our kids going there. And I'd just like it to be as affordable and as less involved. I don't know what our liability is. If, like with AFS, the school has no liability whatsoever. It's all this very well-known organization that does that. If we do it and there's a problem with a kid, like in a lot of these programs, the kids go to these countries, and if a boy is with the girl, a sister, an AFS sister of theirs, not AFS, but other programs, they could go anywhere. They just have to be chaperoned by a boy, I'm not sure. But this is different cultures. So I am concerned about our legal expenses. But, this is mainly saying I'd like to find out a lot more about both of them. Because I love the idea of the kids having opportunities like this.
And again, this isn't to replace AFS, this is to augment and open one's doors. Again, not, I think there have been some conversations that I've heard over my time here on the Cape that that you could imagine a little hotel that's not used in the off-season filled with foreign exchange students. That's not what I see the vision of this. This is, there was an article that was in I think it might have been Monday's paper that talks about some Chinese students, and it need not be just Chinese students. I think a lot of what in Spiritus, this Yarmouth-based company, deals with are different Chinese schools, but oops. Yeah. When my computer says there's 10% power left and I've got 7 minutes, that means now. I believe that Nauset has 16 students from seven different countries. 16 is probably more than I'm imagining at all, but it's a chance to go and provide more diversity. There was a neat article in the newspaper from a couple weeks ago about there's 6 boys that are playing on the Cape Cod Academy lacrosse team that are Chinese students, again coming in through a process like this, and I imagine that they had never thought about playing lacrosse before in their lives, and my son was playing against them a couple weeks ago, and it was just kind of neat. So it's a different type of way of looking at ways to enhance exchanges.
So it's not instead of AFS, it's in addition to AFS.
Right, and it doesn't preclude our students from doing doing trips abroad through AFS either. It just sort of opens possibilities.
Anything further, sir?
Well, the last two things I have, there is in your packets just sort of the latest memo that's gone out to our community and to businesses in both Chatham and Harwich for the fundraiser that will be for the concession stand this Friday. We initially were looking at a Saturday date, but couldn't get teams to play us on Saturday, so we shifted it to Friday. So we have our girls co-op team with Cape Cod Tech will be playing Mashpee in girls lacrosse. We will have the Harwich Fire Department grill and burgers and hot dogs and beverages for people. There will be an auction in between the two lacrosse games, including some of the memorabilia that we spoke of. I know that you all want the Rough Rider weather vane atop your garages, but so we have the weather vane, some signs. We have local businesses like the Chatham Candy Manor is putting together a sort of a candy basket for us to raffle off. I had an email from Jeremy Gingras at the Harwich Chamber of Commerce that they'll have a beach chair for us, just a number of different items that hopefully can help provide that seed money to get the concession stand to go from slab to the picture that's in your packet that I cannot project at the moment. And the last thing I just wanted to raise and note for just business that we'll have for our next meeting, but we'll need to vote on it for our next meeting, so I just want to kind of talk about it for a moment. It should be pretty quick and simple. We had you at one of our previous meetings vote on the Cape Net contract, and just after you voted on that, there was a discussion that Katie and I were having on whether or not the process that's used for the E-rate meets all of the procurement laws that the state of Massachusetts has, because while apparently in Massachusetts, while you and I think that our cable or our internet connection is a utility, it's not really looked at that way when it comes to the procurement law. So what we did subsequent to your vote is we actually put it out to bid following the state procurement laws. The same two entities came and bid on it as before. We have, and only Cape Net was responsive to it. So we just have a clarifying motion that needs to be made regarding the internet contract for the district.
I have a question about that. This is to be eligible for E-rate funding, correct?
Correct.
Under the E-rate funding guidelines, what I looked up, it looks like the RFP has to be for 28 days, and it has to be an open and fair process. So it was for 28 days to meet this requirement, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Our business manager says yes.
Because what I saw was that it was from April 26th to May 16th, which would only be 21. So I'm worried that we're not going to get the E-rate funding because we're not falling within the federal guidelines requirements.
Could you please?
In order to comply with the E-rate requirements, we met all the criteria with the open bid for that, but the Massachusetts 30B procurement laws are even more stringent, so we then advertised the bid for the internet services. So they're two different procurement requirements, so we met the E-rate obligation to have it out for different agents to bid on the potential to do the work, but then we had to have a separate Massachusetts 30B E-rate bid that went out.
So when did we put out this first bid to meet the federal requirement? Because I had previously asked, it was on April 13th, for information about who the other bidders were. And I didn't receive any response back, but, I was wondering who the other bidders were and what we're looking at.
So for the internet service, so we had two different things went out. One is for telephone services, and then the other was for our internet services.
One was for basically the fiber optic, and the other was for the hubs. So I was talking about the one for the fiber optic. That's the internet connectivity, that's what I was wondering about.
So for the E-rate, and for the 30B procurement, the two that we had 6 vendors that requested our bid specs when we just advertised. We had 2 submittals, but only one that was a responsive and responsible because they completed all of the content information that was required in the bid package, and that was CapeNet. Comcast responded to the bid, but they provided us incomplete information.
That went for the federal requirement?
No, for our state requirement.
What about for the federal one?
The federal was just Comcast and CapeNet.
Again? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything further?
That would be all, but we will need to take a vote on this
Next time.
Next time. The timeliness is we need to get CapeNet moving and moving forward so that we can have the internet connectivity with them, ideally by July 1st. I met with Chris Clark earlier today, and from the Harwich Selectmen's standpoint, they have voted to give CapeNet the access to the town conduit to pull the cable that CapeNet needs to pull. We just need to green light them.
Karen?
I have a question. Because of the delay for CapeNet in providing these services, now if they have a July 1st deadline and they've only been able to start when? Yesterday? If the bid closed on 16th, they would have been able to start yesterday, so that's about 6 weeks in order to complete the work. Will there be an extension to the July 1st deadline? That's a really short time for all the work that they have to do. Or is there some other provision? That's, 6 weeks is a short time for CapeNet to be able to meet that requirement.
Is there any returns to the podium?
What's really helpful is the town of Harwich is allowing the CapeNet to use the conduits that are already in place. And so there's some preliminary work that they've been able to do, and in the bid specs, it specified that we needed to be up and running for July 1st, and they don't seem to think that there's a problem. And district-wide, we will be still, as a redundant services, maintaining a certain level of connectivity with Comcast, maybe 100 megabytes, just as a backup, we won't be without services.
Karen?
So, thank you. So CapeNet or Bill Kelly at CapeNet doesn't have an issue with the short time
No.
frame? I just want to make sure that they can.
No, they've assured us that they're ready to go.
Okay.
Some of the work was previously done as a result of the
And
construction.
Chatham's already connected.
Right, I realize that.
Yeah. And the
I know-
conduit's already laid in
Right,
Harwich.
but that was part of why they were able to do it in the time frame that was specified, which would have been like 2.5 months, not 6 weeks.
Mhm.
So that was already taken into account with that, so, that is kind of a moot point. But I just wanted to make sure that they were able to do it.
That's what they responded in the RFP.
Okay.
Katie, is there any kind of penalty clause if they're not able to comply with the deadline?
I don't believe so. I have to
I don't know. I don't recall.
Just curious.
To be fair, considering, oh, I'm sorry.
Steve?
But we still have some service from Comcast
Yes,
as a
yes,
backup.
yes.
So, school's out,
Right.
and so there'll still be service coming
Right.
into the building,
Yes,
so.
yeah.
Good? Karen?
I just didn't want it to fall on CapeNet, that I believe is a good organization, to have any kind of penalty or for us to be thinking about assessing a penalty when, you know, they've been delayed in their start. That was really what I was asking about.
And I think we have a very collaborative, cooperative relationship established with them. I think it's pretty exciting. It's going to be happening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Executive session? Absolutely not. Sharon?
So, nothing about this, but since we have a new chair, and congratulations, and I would like to just request that we try to think instead of from one meeting to the next, what we might have on our agenda, or maybe two ahead, if we couldn't maybe tentatively in pencil plan some things will be done at different times. It seems as though, to me, and I'm not sure all we did at the beginning, but it doesn't seem like we did so much heavy meetings at the beginning of the year as we did in the last couple months. And so, for some things, I'd just love to spread it out if we could plan that way, that's all.
Steve?
If you look back at historically, we have times of the year that it's,
Yeah.
like this time of year, everybody's doing their school improvement plan, and there's just, it's not the type of thing you can spread it out to the slower seasons.
Karen?
If I understand what you're getting at, I think you're saying, you know, maybe we could have like a rough agenda where we know that on this particular, at this particular meeting or during this particular month, we're going to be doing X and Y. And then in the next month or 2 months from then, we'll be doing this, just so we have some idea, and we've already built a semi-schedule at the beginning of the year. If I understand what you're getting at, and this is something that I think was suggested in the MASC charting the course.
Mr. Carpenter, maybe there are things, from Katie, maybe there are things that we have to do annually that we know at the beginning of the year have to be
Right.
done by certain
Yeah.
dates. And maybe if there was not too difficult, we could put together some outline of what that is so that we would know, you know, we would at least know what the mandatory things were, and then we could fill in as new things come up. If you have things you have to do every year and then you find out halfway through that something has to be done that's new at a certain time, we could supplement that kind of a chart. Karen?
I think it would be helpful to help streamline our meetings and the whole process, you know, if we did that. And then we'd have some idea of when these things are coming up that, you know, some things may be more important, or we may have more knowledge about a particular topic than another. I think that would be helpful if we could work on that. And maybe also talk about going back to the format that I guess the Chatham School Committee used to do for meetings, workshop, business meeting, alternating. Maybe that's something we can talk about, not tonight, but as a possibility.
Any suggestions?
I would love to do that.
Amy?
Talk about it.
I just wanted to, I thought at some point there was some talk about giving Ed a plaque of some sort, or some kind of recognition, and I wondered if there was anything happening with that.
Maybe we wanted to keep that a secret.
Nobody's watching you.
I don't know the answer to the question.
Okay.
But we'll find out when we're not
Your secret's
announcing
safe
it to
with
him. Karen?
Just one more quick question. Scott, you had said, I think 2 months ago, that we'd be streaming meetings, that we'd be actually using the equipment here as opposed to a little handheld camera. When is that going to happen?
I'll have to follow up with Steve. I think he's in the process of training students to do the filming.
I can assure you that I will be all over him on that,
Why?
because it's important. I've been bugging him about it all year, about getting that going.
So shall I bug him as well?
You
or
bug
let
me and
do
I'll,
it?
I'll pass
Okay.
the bug along,
All right.
like a disease.
Jim's looking forward to not operating the camera,
Steve.
too.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Anybody who's opposed may stay.
We talked about starting meetings earlier.